Great. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ashland Select Board meeting of May 15th, 2024. This meeting is being live streamed live on WACA-TV and on Facebook as well, and remote participation is available using the Zoom video conferencing platform. However, any disruption with our platform will result in the platform being shut down and the meeting continue after. So I would just caution anyone from any kind of we will act to shut down disruptive and inappropriate speech immediately. So thank you and welcome everyone to this meeting. So as usual, we will start with citizen participation. And do we have anyone for citizen participation of the usual kind of citizen participation?
Yeah, the usual citizens participation.
Yeah. Mark, yeah. Is that you? Okay. And I don't see anyone online that, oh, I just noticed my daughter's online.
How'd you just notice
yeah,
that?
That's funny. Okay.
They have the family on Zoom now, huh?
Yeah.
Mark Tassoni, 49 Hawthorne Road, Ashland, Mass. I would like to save my time and have what's going to happen after, and then come up after. Can I
Okay,
do
thanks,
that?
Mark. We'll do that. I think the board's amenable to that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't prepared for this particular part, so I'm going to turn it over to our.
You want me to do
Why don't you start, because
Sure.
it's been that kind of day.
Oh, I know that feeling.
I just remind you, I can shut down this meeting under the.
You can. You did say, you
Then
know,
we have to vote that.
Oh,
We
okay.
may,
All right.
if we outvote you, then no.
Okay.
any shenanigans, you're
Yeah.
gonna shut us down. So, Rob, you know, it's in a bittersweet moment for a lot of people, including yourself. This is going to be your last meeting as a select board member, at least this go around. You know, you've
Yeah.
been known to take a break. and
Next
just-
Should you
Century.
decide to come back
So,
next?
I'm not looking at Marcia as I'm saying this. So, but yeah, so you know, we've been able. You've on this stint, you've served on the select board for 9 years, and you know, I can just tell you personally, it's been a real honor to serve with you and work with you. You were, you know, one of the select board members that hired me and gave me a chance, and I really appreciate that. And you know, a couple of things really come to mind, and I'll try to keep my stuff brief because I know there's a lot of people that want to say a lot of things. But one of the things I was always really impressed by you is, you know, you always were able to kind of stick to your values, even if they were unpopular at the time. You know, you stuck to them, you held firm. You know, you were always willing to listen and stuff, but you know, you didn't necessarily play politics a lot, and I think that's kind of rare in today's society. So I appreciate that. You always, you know, you and I, you know, have some disagreements on things, and we've always been able to work them out, and we've always had good, solid discussions that, you know, didn't have any kind of animus attached to them or anything, you know, and you know, that's something that I really appreciate, and I think you're that way with everybody, and I think everybody else appreciates that. And I could go on, but one final thing I will say is, a lot of people might not know this, but you're like one of the funnier guys I think I've, you know.
Wait till you hear my speech.
Oh, you know, you can't, and it's not planned. It's sometimes I think you're trying to be funny, and sometimes I don't. And it's just funny. But hey. You know, probably the one that kind of resonates the most is, gosh, you and Carl were sitting together, and Carl was talking about going to the cemetery and visiting the cemetery, and how, you know, each time he goes up there, he sees more and more names that he's familiar with, and you just said under your breath, like, well, that's the way it works, you know.
Yeah. Beats the alternative, right?
So again, just thank you for your service, and good luck in your next phase.
All right, thank you, Michael. Well, I think that wraps it up, right? Is that
Yeah, no. So we have some things for you, but before we do that, I'd like to open it up to the board first, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. But
You know, I would like to also just echo what Michael said about you sticking to your values, that that's something, I've known you for a long time, Rob. I actually remember when you served in 97, I couldn't remember the years, you told me 97 to 99 on the select board in those days.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was on the school committee, and I remember that, you know, you did, I've seen it, you know, through the years, that that's something that you've always done well, that's important to you. You know, another thing I feel like, you know, you are open to other ideas, and that, you know, you're willing always to provide a listening ear to people, and even giving them a forum here sometimes. And, you know, I do respect that about you, because I might not be as generous as you are in that regard. And it's important in our world that
No,
we
I
do
think so, yeah.
listen to others and their opinions in that. And, you know, I've only been serving with you for a year. You know, I just appreciate what you've shown me in that year. You know, I'm grateful for that, and I really realize too, I've learned so much this year too about the relationships that exist between members and other boards, and how complex it all is. And so anyone who has spent the number of years that you have giving your time, your energy, and you have passion about some very important things in our community, right? And, you know, I just have a lot of respect and admiration for you, and thank you.
All right, thank you, Claudia. Yeah.
Randy?
So I've had 5 years serving with you. It's been 5 years already. It's crazy how fast time flies. And, you know, Rob, one of the things that I admire most is you always put the community first in everything that you do. So like Claudia said, you know, you do give a voice to, you listen to everyone, and you give everyone an opportunity. You stick to that, like, that whole democratic process, D with a lowercase d, you know. Uppercase D too, but, you know, we're not going to go there.
Yes.
But I always appreciate that you really are, you're always looking to make sure every voice in the community is heard, and that's really important. And, you know, a lot of what we do up here is, you know, it's a fraction of the work that goes into being on this board, and to put in the years of service and the commitment. You know, I think of you, and I think of, you know, open space, always advocating for open space. Every single time we're going to talk about the Upper Charles Trail, I will think of you. Like, I will literally think of you every single time. And it's been an honor to serve with you. I'm like thankful for your leadership, and we will miss you, and just, you know, I wish you all the best in the newest chapter, and I'm sure you're going to be on the other side advocating still for the trail, so
right.
we won't totally
Miss me,
we'll still see
And
you
I have a
around.
recommendation for that. So.
Okay, so but thank you very much.
Thank you, Brandy.
Mr. Chair,
For
9
now.
years, wow.
Yeah,
We've been together for 9 years. That's not bad. It's pretty good.
put up with you for 9 years.
You put up
And
with me
same
for 9
you,
years.
yeah.
I mean, you double barrel between Marcia and me. It's been kind of hectic. But it was a good experience. I've known you for a lot longer. I've known you for many years within the town. Your coaching abilities and what you did on and off the field. You could tell that any of the kids that you had as a coach knew the true value of working hard and perseverance. You may not know what the heck you were doing on the
That's
field,
right,
but
yeah.
that's okay. All I can-
My son set me straight on that. And my other
all I
kids
can
too.
say is you persevered through it all. Even he even agreed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's awesome. I've known you for a number of years. I've known the Rennie family all my life. And, you were the little Marsha way back when. Way back when. And all I can say is your professionalism has been a keynote in my mind. Your generosity of time, giving people time to speak, is well noted by everybody here. Your values have not changed, and they will never change, because that's the type of person you are. And that's something we can all learn by, and that's a great trait to continue to have. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to be a board member with you, a community member as well. And watch out, Marsh, he's got a lot of free time.
Yeah.
He already told me you've been working on a honey-do list for the last 3 years, so God only knows what's expected. What I will miss the most is the jokes we had with respect to the Upper Charles
Upper
Trail.
Charles Trail.
It would never go by without a day, without a meeting, that there would be an underlining comment that no one would hear, thankfully. And you and I would just get that joke, and we all would get the joke, and it would just move on. You would move forward. So it's been a pleasure, my friend, and I wish you the very best in your future endeavors.
Thanks.
It's been a blast.
Yeah. Madam Vice Chair?
Mr. Chair, it has been a great 9 years. We haven't always seen eye to eye, but I truly believe that is part of the lower D democratic process.
Yeah.
That if you don't see eye to eye, you can have a conversation and wind up with possibly a better product and a better end result.
That's what we do here.
That's
Yeah.
what we do here. And I think that is beneficial to our community. Ashland has benefited from those discussions and your willingness to listen and allow other peoples to talk. I got to know your family when I was with Marcia on school committee. And then we had children graduate from high school together, which is still hard to believe that that's been 14 years now since they've graduated.
That's right.
And
One of them's online.
one of them's online.
Another one's back there.
And
Yeah.
I just think it was great that you came back. And I don't think we can let you go completely. I think you're stepping off the board, and we have to vote this, but you were a member of the Upper Charles Trails Committee before you became a select board member.
That's right, yeah.
And you've been working very hard on that.
Life
and-
sentence.
And, and not at this meeting, but I'm hoping that at another meeting, we can keep you there to keep
Right, yes.
advocating for and keep working toward that, because I might not be on the Trails Committee, but I know the real benefit that that could have for Ashland and the region. And I really want us to continue working on it. I think your advocacy for that will be beneficial.
Great, thank you.
So we'll
Yeah.
vote that and see where we
Okay,
get. But,
yeah.
so I'm going to open it up to the public. If there is anyone who'd like to come up and either speak, just come line up at the podium. Steve, Rob, whoever, come, please, line up, get to the podium, and,
I can still shut you off, you know.
no,
Oh.
that's not happening.
She's
I'm-
usurped me
You
already.
can. But, you know, when I served on the board, I always tried to look at our service as a link in the chain that goes back to 1846. And, you know, when I look at Rob's tenure, his 2 tenures, you alluded to that, there's a 20-year gap, basically, in between. And that's unique in the annals of Select Board history.
that's
There's a lot of
interesting.
folks that got elected, voted off, came back, so on. But 20 years is unique. And
Youth
your
sports.
first, you know,
Youth sports, that's what, that's.
yeah, and, you know, so I went back and I looked at my notes for when we did our recognition project. And there was, looking at the board you first served on, and the names were Bresnik, Baker, Finnegan, Galani,
Teller.
and Shear.
Howard Shearer.
And
Dave
Shearer,
Teller was
right?
there too, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, you know, fast forward to 2015, and the names are, of course, Mignani, there was Hackinson, there was Mitchell, Shearer, and Greaves. Where am I going with this?
That's
I hope you realize, Joe, you're an endangered species.
I have been told that already. More ways than one.
But, you know, I really didn't know you when we first served on the board. I got to know you, I think, pretty well. I think we've enjoyed each other's camaraderie developed. And I have to echo everything that's been said about your passion and your humor, your compassion, your empathy, and so on. And I started to think, did we agree on, how much did we agree on, how much did we disagree on? And, I think for the most part, we agreed on things. It's interesting, select board votes are typically pretty routine. Most of them are 5-0, maybe there's some 4-1. Thing that sticks in my head, though, is we were on the short end of a 3-2 vote.
Yeah,
if
I
you
know
recall,
that
for the host community agreement way back
cannabis,
when.
Cannabis.
And I was good with that vote. But so tonight, I salute my comrade in cannabis.
Okay, that was it. Thank you. Yeah.
We gotta get that on a plaque
Oh,
or something.
Who's my comrade in the dog statue? That's Yolanda.
That's me.
Hi.
Sorry. Hi, Dave.
That's all right. Hi, everybody. David Rosenblum, 191 High Street. It's not my thing to come up here or a town meeting. I finally got to say that.
Oh, boy.
All right.
Oh, your
Well,
address.
thank you for being willing to do it tonight.
Yeah, that's very
My
good.
pleasure, literally. I think most of you know, but I am the chair of the Ashland Democratic Town Committee, and I'm here representing the committee and myself. And there are many members here, a couple up there and over here. And Rob, of course, is a lifetime member of the Ashland Democratic Town Committee, not meeting that you started when you were born, but
Yeah.
you've been in 20 years.
Yes.
20 years of service, and I came in kind of in the middle of that, actually. And Rob was, you were an officer then, and you're an officer now in the committee,
Yikes.
and you help plan our events, and it's really important to me and other people to have your input and your guidance.
Well, thank
And you say, David, do I really have to go to that meeting? It's like, yes, you do. Frankly, when there's a meeting and everything's settled and there's a speaker, if you want to come to that, fine. If you don't, don't. But we need your input, planning. And
Don't tell Marcia about the summer social yet. Okay?
Oh, it hasn't.
Yeah, but that's been an annual event the last
Okay,
couple of years,
all
so,
right,
you know.
It's going to happen. Don't know. And thank you very much. And, so, and Rob, you, my standing here as the chair, it's your fault. Let me put it that way. You're responsible. I actually were at a meeting. I probably would have still been a member, just doing my thing. And we needed a secretary at the committee, and you were sitting next to me. You probably don't remember this, and you said, David, why don't you do that?
Because I didn't want to do it. That's
Yes, that was probably when we, yes. And I said, okay. And that got me started, and I really appreciate that. And also, it's a very good lesson I found, if you want something to happen, you have to ask. And that's something, and I'm glad you did. And people were, I have my notes, I'm not going to use them too much, but to echo a theme, I have Rob says it like it is and brings his insights to the table. Okay, then that's certainly a very important part of who you are, and we really appreciate it. And you have, officially and unofficially, you're on our agendas as the town update, and to fill us in on what's going on here in this room and in other committees. And I'm your friend, privileged to do that, be that. And we were on the Upper Charles Trail Committee too, are on the Upper Charles Committee. And let's see what else there. And that's, and we all really, looking at the committee members, okay, really appreciate it, and you will, and certainly look forward to that, and to you continuing. And Rob, enjoy your extra time with Marcia
Okay.
and your family and the wonderful little boy over there.
That's good.
And And,
God.
but with an uppercase D, I know you will devote a little bit of your time,
Okay.
and more than usual, to the elections this year, which are just so important.
Yes.
And that's, my last note, everybody in Ashland, vote Tuesday.
Okay, thanks.
And there's no uppercase D associated with that. It's a nonpartisan election.
Thanks,
Anyway,
David, appreciate it.
welcome.
And
Thank
thanks
you.
for the committee members for coming. That's great.
Thank you,
Thanks,
David.
Hey, Rob.
Hey.
Hi, everybody.
Hey,
A lot of
Marcia.
familiar faces. So everybody's heard a lot of this. I'm a native, and people might think that's why we settled in Ashland. They would be wrong. Actually, we moved here originally to buy it because my mother was a real estate agent, and she convinced us to buy a condo in Ashland, which now that I'm a mother with grown children, I see the wisdom in that. That was very smart of her, and now I luckily have my kids in town. But when it was time to move from the condo to the house, I was ready to look at other towns. I love Ashland, but, I was open. By then, he was already fully involved on the Conservation Commission. And he's like, no, we're going to stay in Ashland. So here we are, almost 40 years later. Rob went from the Conservation Commission to the Board of Selectmen. He was elected, as everybody said, he was elected on Stephen, our third child's first birthday. He was out celebrating
believe
that
I
while
did
I
that.
was home with the kids.
Yeah.
But, when that term was over, we had the three kids all in school, the older kids, and we had a fourth on the way. And when he contemplated a second term at that time, I said, you go do that, and I'll make the call to the divorce attorney. That's fine, that'll work. Not really, but, we were busy, and as it's been mentioned, Rob then took on the next several years doing all the kids' stuff, and that was great. And then it was 2015 when I was finished with my gig, and he started his.
Yeah, she talks big about me, but she was 9
Stop.
years on the school committee.
Stop. Not in this room where we're in double digits all over. No, anyway.
Yes, but that is notable, right? I mean, that as a family, right, it went from Rob, and then you spent 9 years, and now he spent another 9 years. That's notable, Marcia.
Right. Well, and in that spirit, I am so glad. I am so glad that the town has had the wisdom and all the great things people have said about him. Now, and I know that this is like oftentimes people get gifts at this event, and so I brought one too.
Uh-oh.
And I want to thank Joe for introducing this topic to me, because what it is Rob's very own clipboard.
Honeydews.
This is for you, honey. It's got plenty of pages. We will fill them all out, okay?
Would you mind keeping that for me?
One more night, I'll keep it. You get it first thing in the morning. But anyway,
Technically, I'm on till Monday, right?
okay, we'll talk. We can
The
negotiate.
election on the 21st.
Yeah.
You're good. Yeah, we got you until the 21st.
Anyway, I'm so proud of my husband, and I love seeing all of you. And thank you all for your service. To be honest, it's a great thing that the town has volunteers who are willing to put as much time as you do. Thank
Marcia,
you.
just one quick thing, Marcia. Thank you for the community service that you and your family provided, allowing Rob to take time away from your family.
It's true.
To put it all, we all take time away, but, a la familia.
I know, and to all your spouses, I say the
Right.
same.
So, thank you for allowing that to happen.
Thank you, Marcia.
Rob St. Germain, 64 Winter Street. What
You
was
don't
that
have
look?
to put your address in.
In all my communications with Rob, I'm known as Rob 2. At any rate, one of the little things that I do is I'm the property steward for the Kawasak, the SVT, Sudbury Valley Trustees section of the town forest, which cuts deeply into the forest. In fact, without that parcel of land, the forest would not really be what it is today. And there was a technical issue that recently came up, and so I was handed a stack of papers like that, and to go through to see if I could find some trace to answer the question. Lo and behold, some more than 30 years ago, Rob and Marcia were deeply involved with the acquisition of that property. We would not have it today. So on behalf of, my role of SVT and whatever, thank you, because I'm a lover of the forest, as you know, and that is a beautiful part of it. So thank you, and thank you for all your
Yeah,
service.
thank you, Rob. Good hearing from you.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah.
Is that it? We can move, oh,
No, we're not done yet. We still got 11 minutes before our hearing, so.
Okay.
We still,
Well,
you
I've
know
got
what?
a
Before I do
20-minute
this,
speech,
hold on.
so-
Before I do this, is there anybody online who would like to say anything? I see Christine, I see Makita, I see,
gentlemen, yeah.
Christine, you want to say anything? Or are you just listening?
She may have wandered off. Oh. Oh, okay.
Right, okay.
Oh, the host, can we,
Christine, if you want to say something, raise your hand, do your raise hand thing. There we go, okay. So I would like to say that I'd like to unmute her as well as, if we can, allow her to put her camera on, if we can.
Oh, boy.
Can we do that?
She doesn't want to do it. I heard
Okay,
the-
or not,
Sounds
that's
like we
fine,
can hear her.
Christine. Go ahead, Christine.
I'm kind of in a dark room.
Okay,
You see me?
we can hear you.
Okay. Hi. I just want to say, go Dad. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And it's admirable. I admire all the work you do and you've done for this town. It's really you have such a good attitude about everything. You're very patient. I just really admire that about you, and I know that you've dedicated so much of your time to this. So congratulations on a great 9 years.
All right, thanks, Christine.
Thanks for being here, Christine.
She's in Brooklyn right now.
Yes.
So, very nice. Thank you.
Well, she's anyway. So, as we do, we have a proclamation for you,
Oh, boy.
and I get to read it. I won't stand up, I can do it here. Okay, I need my glasses, sorry.
I can sum
You
it up.
tried.
I tried. It's been 12 years, I start need to wear glasses.
Yeah.
Anyway, Select Board Proclamation of Recognition. Whereas Rob moved to Ashland with his wife, Marcia, and really grew to love this small town, realizing that this would be a great place to call home and raise a family. And whereas Rob ran for the Board of Selectmen in 1996, getting elected alongside Arnold Baker and filling the seats previously held by Teresa Evans and Gary Galani. And whereas Rob and other board members worked tirelessly on water quality issues, inequities in state funding, MWRA assessment, selecting a location for the MBTA station, silencing the train whistles, and looking at ways to keep Ashland affordable while funding capital project at the same time. Still need to work on that train silencing.
Yeah.
And whereas during Rob's tenure, the board also approved the proposal for building a water treatment plant, which was estimated to cost $7 million. And whereas Rob has also been very involved in the community with land acquisitions, sustainability efforts, and he has dedicated more than 10 years on the Upper Charles Trails project, and he's not going away yet.
Yeah.
And whereas Rob was also instrumental in securing $2 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds for this project and worked with private landowners on the importance of their role in establishing the route. And whereas Bob is also a lifetime member of the Democratic Town Committee, and whereas Rob has served on the Select Board, formerly known as the Board of Selectmen, for 12 years, he has served with Barry Bresnick, Sean Finnegan, David Teller, Arnold Baker, Gary Galani, John Ellsworth, Yolanda Greaves, Carl Hackinson, Joseph Mignani Jr., Steve Mitchell, Randy Kinsman, and Claudia Bennett. And whereas while Rob has been on the board, he has worked with 3 different town managers, including Dexter Blois, Anthony Schiavi, and Michael Herbert. And now, therefore, we, Robert's friends, family, current and former board members, gather to thank you for all you have done to make Ashland a better place. We hereby proclaim Saturday, May 18th, 2024, as Rob Scherer Day. We urge all residents and employees to make known their appreciation for Rob's devotion to the town of Ashland, and we wish him good health and good fortune.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
And we have 3 more gifts.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
we'll make them quick. So You know, Rob, we wanted to give you, a token, a clock, go figure, with the town of Ashland seal on it. I'll just put it over here.
Great, thank you.
And then two other real gems.
Uh-oh.
So we did find
One last,
a BS coin.
Ah,
So,
The last
otherwise
one.
known as a Board of Selectmen coin or
Yeah.
Select Board coin. So I'm sure the board is okay with presenting this to you.
definitely.
all right.
And
thank
then
you.
finally, here's your stamp, your signature
No
stamp.
one will dare use it now.
So I guess I can't use it to like stamp payroll records or anything
Maybe use it at
anymore,
work,
so,
yeah.
But yes, it's kind
Great,
of
let me
silly,
see
I
that.
guess. But
Oh, that's good. That even looks like my signature.
I was about to say it's probably hopefully it's your
Oh,
signature.
that's good. Look at that. Well, thank you.
So, thank
Well,
you.
Well, thank you all. That's, I kind of, I wasn't expecting much to happen tonight. I was just gonna do a short, I know, but then,
Yes, but our first thing wasn't until 7:40, Rob.
well, this
What
is
were
when
you
I started,
expecting us to
this is when
do
I
for-
started to catch on. I'm the chair, I'm in charge here. I can figure
He
things
didn't
out,
pick it up till Tuesday.
Yeah, now I look at the agenda at the last minute, what the heck
No,
happened
we
here?
had our agenda meeting.
So, I really do appreciate this. I do want to echo the thanks to my family, and Joe, I think you made a great point that we all do this at the expense of our families, really, and with their forbearance. And so I'd be amiss if, of course, we didn't thank Marcia and little Mason and the children too. Christine's here, and they've all, they've been around her when I've left for meetings, and I'm not there for various family events. So it certainly is. I wanted to thank them, and then, I'm very touched by my fellow members on the select board and working with you folks. And it really, I have to say, it really is a growth experience to get involved in your community and get it and be on something like the select board, but any committee. You really have to change your attitude. I can't imagine looking back if I hadn't been doing this and all the people I wouldn't have met, and the people I worked with. And it really is something you've got to, that's great to experience, because working together with people to do something that people you don't agree with, like Diane, and always had these crazy ideas, and I had to, the Board of Health and stuff. Yeah. And, but to move forward and get something done constructively is a real growth experience. And I think I'm better for that and for my involvement with all of you. And, thank you, Michael, and the team that you've put together, and Jen and Diane and Susan up there, and working with all the people over the years. It's great. And, Michael, I really appreciate your remarks. We've gone back and forth on a number of things, and, you've really been invaluable in terms of your willingness to work on things, identify issues and work on things. So I wanted to point that out. That's great. And so, why have I been doing this, and why have we all been doing this? Because we want to have an impact on our community. We're looking beyond ourselves, and that's something we all share, including most of you out there are doing your own efforts at various levels. You're thinking about someone other than yourselves, and you want to have a positive impact on your community. I think that's what brings us all together, and what I appreciate about you, and I think what you appreciate about my efforts. And I expect to continue to be involved, not at this level. I think, things change. It's time for change. But as people said, I will be continuing, and maybe in a little different aspect, and something that maybe won't take quite as much time as this does. And you picked on some of the, we've done some, while I've been on the board, there's been great things that have happened, big projects. And I have to say, I've been supportive of those, but I haven't been the key person on those. That's a bunch of other people. We know these big projects. But I think you picked up on my concern for quality of life. That's what I ran on originally. Like, what's the quality of life here? What are we doing about open space, the environment, affordable housing, traffic walkability, sustainability, all the things that we think about. What are we going to leave to our children and our grandchildren? And that's why we're here. And those are the things I like to focus on. And I appreciate that people understand and have noted that and have made some impact on that. So some of the things I do want to, just not to take, but, one of the things I look back with pride is the Eversource gas pipeline. And that's something that, when they came in, it was a routine expansion of the gas pipeline through town, major disruption, had all sorts of sustainability issues. And basically this little town banded together and said, no, you're not doing that. This kind of stuff should be on the ash heap of history. And that's what we did here. So I'm especially proud of that. So anyway, I wasn't expecting all this, so I'm sorry. But one thing I do want to, if I give a little chance to give a little advice, that we all get caught up in day-to-day things, and we spend a lot of time doing things. We'll do an important thing, a license transfer later tonight. We'll talk about the 40B. But one of the things I think I would say, be proactive. That's why I think this comprehensive plan, and thank you guys for doing it, is so important. Like, try to get out ahead of issues, and when we talk about impact our community, helping shape the community through planning. And it's not just up to developers to develop our community, it's up to us as citizens to get involved in that process, and that's what we're all doing, and that would be my major advice. And that's why I think this comprehensive plan is so important. I think, and also this 40B process, I'm about to bow out of it, or I'll still be involved, but you guys are gonna carry on, especially with Michael. And I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I think we've had some, Michael's put together a very effective response. I've seen the response from the other town boards. So I'm confident we can have a good impact on that. So I guess cautiously optimistic on that, and I want to, thank people for that. So I will want to, I do want to close with something. And I was just at the JFK Library last week for a conference. And one of the things, if you recall, in the early 60s, that's when, my son's going to shake his head when he hears this, that JFK made a commitment to go to the moon and back before the decade was out. And people remember that. And this is what he said, and I think this is particularly appropriate to everything we do. We intend to go to the moon and to do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And that's it. But because
Where's he been for the last night?
I know.
You do that at home?
They don't let me. They don't let me. But so remember that. Some things, especially things we do, they're hard, People don't do this because they're easy. They do it because they're hard. And that's the most important things that we do. So I will leave you with that thought. But not everything's hard. This was easy. So anyway, so thank you all. I appreciate the good wishes. So, anyway, thank you all. All right. Thanks. All right. Thank you.
So we have to officially open the hearing, but then I'd like to pause it and do a group picture, because I think.
Thank you.
And we have cake.
Oh my gosh. Cake too. You hear that, everybody?
So let's open the hearing
My
like we
daughter's
need to,
leaving.
and then have some cake. Or do we want to do cake at the end of the meeting? Yeah, we'll do
Hey,
cake at
there's
the
gonna
end.
be cake.
You know what, let's open the hearing, take a picture, and I think we might,
There's
if
a
you want to
picture,
wait,
too.
there'll be cake at the end, because we have a full agenda.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead. You have to
Oh,
read the hearing
yes.
notice.
Oh, God, you wanted me to be prepared. What did I do with it? It's right here. All right. All right. Notice is hereby given that the Select Board will conduct a hearing regarding a transfer of liquor license and an alteration of licensed premises. The transfer is an all-alcoholic beverage license held by Cesar Moreno, DBA Los Cabos Mexican Grill and Cantina. A public hearing will be held on this matter at Ashland Town Hall, 101 Main Street, Ashland, Mass. On Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 7:40 p.m. Persons wishing to be heard in this matter should appear at the time and place indicated above. Interested parties who are unable to attend the hearing may submit written comments to Select Board's Office, Town Hall, 101 Main Street, Ashland, Mass. 01721, or by emailing Susan Roby at sroby@ashlandmass.com. Signed, Robert Scheer, Chair of his last legal notice. All right, thank you. So the meeting's open. Do I have a vote?
I move that we pause the hearing until we take pictures.
All those in favor of pausing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, so we'll take a picture and then go back to hearing. Thank you all. Let's see if I can get my family to stay around here.
So this is my first time to Ashland. Thank you for having me, and I can tell by what's happened already what a lovely community this is. So if the meeting goes my way tonight, I'll have to come back for margaritas and check out this Upper Charles Trail.
Oh, definitely on both accounts.
So much about. But in all seriousness, congratulations,
Well,
Mr.
thank
Chair.
you.
My brother, my law partner, was a member of the Select Board of Chelmsford for 12 years, so I know the work that goes into it, and it's mostly a thankless job. I think that the average citizen who isn't involved in the committees and such may not know all of the
Thank you. Behind the scenes work. So it's lovely to see you get some recognition tonight.
Thank you.
Best of luck. Okay, so I am here tonight to present to you the application for an on-premises transfer of an all-alcoholic license for a restaurant located at 300 Elliott Street in Ashland, Mass., doing business as Los Cabos Mexican Grill and Cantina, as well as the alteration of premises to include outdoor seating. And also before you should be an application for a permit to operate a food establishment. So I'll introduce you to who is with me tonight. I'm joined by the applicant, Roberto Diaz Carrera, who is the sole member of the applicant, Roberto DDC Los Cabos LLC, and future owner of the restaurant. I'm also joined by James Bazaz. James is a manager of the LLC, a managing partner of the restaurant, also a captain firefighter, and a resident of Ashland. And also joined by Brian Armando Arias Buendia, who's the proposed manager of the license, of the new license, and future family member of Roberto. Roberto, this restaurant will be very much a family-run restaurant. I believe 3 of his 5 children work at the restaurant, as well as Brian. So that is always a good thing to have a family-run restaurant or family-run business. So I'm sure the board is familiar with the restaurant itself. Los Cabos prides itself on serving authentic Mexican food and spirits within a comfortable and friendly atmosphere, and certainly that the new owners will continue to operate in that same manner after the transfer. So Roberto will be purchasing the restaurant. He's been working at the restaurant for 10 years at least, and he's under agreement to purchase the restaurant as soon as the transfer of the license is approved by this board and, of course, by the ABCC. Brian's also been the assistant manager at Los Cabos for the last year, and both he and Roberto will be there full-time. And they both completed their TAM certifications and all other certifications that are required by the town and the ABCC. To the best of their knowledge, at no time during their long tenure there have there ever been any complaints filed by the ABCC or the town, any incidents of underage drinking or DUIs or anything of that nature. So they're working with a clean record and intend to continue that way. So you have the complete application in front of you, along with all of the supporting documentation. Along with the transfer to the new owner, we're asking that the license be extended to outdoor seating, so that when weather permits, outdoor seating will open per the attached plans that you have in the application, and they will close the required number of indoor seating so that they will never exceed the allowed capacity. Outdoor seating will be completely enclosed with concrete barriers and decorative fencing, and you'll be able to see from the plan that it's contiguous to the restaurant with a clear view from the inside, and of course food will be served out there along with the alcohol, and there'll be no negative impact on the neighborhood. So I believe you have all the other information that you need. The hours are in there. I'm happy to read those out for you if you'd like. Of course, we're happy to answer any questions that the board may have. Otherwise, I'll respectfully request that this board approve the application for the transfer of the on-premises all alcohol license for the restaurant and alteration of premises for the restaurant located at 300 Elliott Street.
Great, thank you. Susan, are there any administrative issues or unfilled parts of the application?
It's complete, and it did go out to all the departments asking if they had any concerns, and nobody has any.
Okay, great, thank you. So, questions or discussion from the board before we close the hearing and move to deliberations?
I have one question.
Yeah, go
For the
ahead.
outdoor seating, how many proposed tables are you looking to?
So if you don't mind, I can pull up the plan, or you might know off the top of your head, but you
Yeah,
can
it's in
invite
the
them up to,
packet.
yeah. If you give me a moment, I
4,
can,
5, 6, 8.
I can
Eight,
look
okay.
at.
If you look
Sorry,
at
I
the
was
8
plan.
total,
through.
yep, thank you.
You're welcome.
I saw the pictures, and then I wasn't
Yep.
sure if there was actually, okay, thank you
Yes,
very much.
thank you.
Yeah, so it looks like a majority of them are on the sidewalk under the overhang, and then there's 2 tables that jut out a little bit, which is what has happened before in that same area when
Okay.
they had their outdoor seating through COVID.
So they're not extending that
No,
area?
it's
It's gonna
exactly
be
the
the same
same
as it was
based on
in
the
the prior?
plans.
Okay,
That's correct.
thank you, appreciate that.
That's it for me, thank you.
And TAM is replacing the tip certification?
That's correct.
For those that didn't catch that
Okay,
along the side. Okay.
Other questions or? I mean, I'll just say, we've been there many times, and seems like these folks are, did you say they already work there, or they're already managing there?
Roberto's been there 10 years, I think.
Oh, yeah, you look familiar, you work the bar, right?
He's,
Yeah.
he's ready to, he's
Yeah, he
ready
does.
to
Okay.
proceed.
Great. Yeah, so it's been well-run, and
That's right.
hopefully it'll continue to be so.
Mhm.
Other questions or thoughts on that?
No, it's nice to see. Motion to close the unless there's anyone who wants to speak for or against.
Oh, I forgot to ask that.
That's
Anybody?
okay.
We didn't
any-
get anything from Susan, right?
And there's
No.
nobody,
Right, Susan said everything was
nobody
covered.
online.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay,
Motion
so
to close the hearing?
Second.
all those in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
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 All those opposed, none. So the Hearing's closed, and now we'll go to the deliberation and our discussion.
I have no discussion. I think this is a great thing for the restaurant. It's a great thing for our community. I think any of us who have been to Los Cabos have seen Roberto there. He runs a great ship, seeing, as you said, it's going to be a family run. His family's already there. So I think for this to officially happen is a nice thing to be able to support and approve.
Well, just one quick question. You're gonna have family members that are gonna be working there. How old are they and what will they be doing?
They're 20 and 18.
Okay. Will they be serving
They
alcohol?
serve, yeah.
Okay,
And they all have their certifications as well. They've been
Certifications,
provided
okay.
with the application.
okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
And
Thank
they've
you.
been, one of them has been doing it, so.
Okay. Have to ask.
I move that we approve the all alcohol license and the change of premise for Los Cabos as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Okay, license been granted.
May I ask,
Congratulations.
may I ask one question?
We wish you the
The permit for the operating of a food license, is that automatic along with it, or is that voted on separately?
So we don't,
We don't.
Got it.
okay.
Just
Different
checking.
process,
Thank you so
yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you and congratulations. Nice to see,
Now those long hours are gonna kick in.
if they hadn't already.
Yeah.
Really.
All right, let me go check the agenda. Is there anything else?
Thank you.
on there tonight?
We got a few
Okay.
things.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks,
Good luck.
guys. Nice seeing you.
Good night.
All right, so new business, oh, well, Mark, wait a minute. Do you want to do citizens participation, Mark, or anybody else? As long as it doesn't involve me, that's good.
Again, Mark Sony, 49 North Thornton Road. And yes, a little.
Okay,
I and you first met down at the House Street Little League field.
that's right.
I was on the same team helping. And all of a sudden, my brother John came around. He was a complete boss.
Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to make sure that that tree doesn't have the same copy of limbs, and it didn't. You were a person that first saw me and said, Mark. You gotta stay calm. You gotta understand what the game is. Help the kids. It's not you. Here I am now, years later, and we're still face to face.
Yeah.
And you're leaving the board. I have outlasted another one.
That's right.
Okay, and I wanted to make sure that Joe didn't take any of my thunder of that same trail.
Okay.
Now, that's there. This is different because it's on the agenda. It's about the 40Bs.
Okay.
I was at the planning board meeting last week, and I'm sure that it got around a little bit, that I kind of blasted their plans, the documents, and what they were talking, how they want to work together before zoning board had a chance to get some sort of say. They said that they were making a comment letter through the town, through all the committees. I wanted to know if the state hasn't heard anything yet from anybody, and the comment letter comes out, and then the zoning board hasn't been notified, how is this going to get going without all those steps?
Yeah.
Please.
Sure. So, Mark, we're essentially in the first phase, which is the site eligibility phase. So the developer sent a application to Mass Housing, which is basically a financing arm, right? And so as part of their review process, what they do is they notify the town. And so we put together a comment letter that basically talks about our concerns, things that we support, et cetera. And we send that to Mass Housing. And so we have a deadline of May 29th to do that. At that point, they'll review our comment letter, and they will make a decision whether or not to issue the site eligibility letter to the developer or not. And if they choose to issue that letter, that gives the developer the green light to submit an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a comprehensive permit or a 40B project.
Okay, so I'm just going to condense what I said to the board, what I'm going to say here. I did some of that zoning bylaws, the zone-based, the form-based, the, what it is now. I do know a little bit about zoning. I would like to help out the boards, get me involved. I can set, you have my email. I told the planning board.
I think I got like 4 emails from you, Mark.
Yeah. Sometimes I go alias. And I just communicate, send me messages, any board that has to do with this. And I can communicate with anybody to be. And I have tried this with the comprehensive plan too, of being a forward-thinking person. I would like to have this town go in this straight understanding, but not get mixed up in anything that could happen and get the state saying, well, why can you answer these questions and why did it happen this way? If everybody gets involved, including a person like myself that has understanding, the citizens are going to be living in this town, living for the Gen Z behind us, and they're going to be saying, well, if it's going good now, knock on wood, nothing messes up, and we have to think back on what happened then. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Mark. Okay, I don't see anyone else for citizen participation at this time, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the vote to approve the purchase of 8.55 acres of land identified as 12 to 16 Union Street for a purchase price of $1,550,000. This vote is to authorize the chair, the vice chair, to execute and enter into any and all documents necessary to effectuate said transaction. And I just want to say this is something that Michael and the board's been working on for quite a while, and I'm very happy we can take this vote before I leave the board. So with that, I'll turn it over to Michael for discussion and background
Sure.
on this.
Yeah, and not too much more information than what we've discussed and what you know. Attorney Mead has worked with the attorneys for the Fafford Corporation to develop the purchase and sale agreement. And the vote the board would be taking tonight technically would be authorizing the chair to approve the
Or the vice
purchase.
chair.
Or the chair or vice chair to basically enter into any documents or sign any documents associated with this. The closing date is no later than June 14th, 2024. So that'll give us a little time to assemble funding and have that ready to go. And yeah, that's about it. For those people watching that aren't familiar with this parcel, this is the parcel that essentially surrounds the public safety building, and it's been identified as a key parcel for a number of different reasons, namely parking. The two main things I would say are parking, and then as a part of the route for the Upper Charles Trail, but it also has some ancillary or potential ancillary uses as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other comments or thoughts on this? Yeah.
So one of the
Questions?
things that we have talked about is the fact that the Fafford's estate had gone in front of the planning board and had been approved as it was divided as a created a subdivision.
They pulled that essentially. Yeah, they
Oh, they did?
essentially pulled that. Yes.
Oh, okay. Because the thought was, initially the thought was that the Bafford company was going to develop that into a certain amount of units.
Yeah, 72 units.
So this is one of the ways that we can, we can minimize the impact to that parcel. So.
And to piggyback what Brandy just said, we could also utilize that additional property for the expansion to Wildwood Cemetery. And the potential expansion of Wildwood Cemetery, as well as the Upper Charles trail location, which I know is very near and dear to Rob. So it's working and trying to fix, multiple issues in town to make it a little bit easier for the townspeople to enjoy. And so we thought it was a good purchase in and of itself.
Can you talk a little bit about the funding mechanism?
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna
sorry,
say,
sorry, I meant to.
yeah.
Same question because of the email that we got,
Yep.
so,
Yep.
yes.
Exactly, sure.
Yeah, so it's made up of a few pieces. So first is actually capital stabilization funds that were approved and appropriated, back in, I think it was the special town meeting that authorized the public safety building.
The 4 acres in front, yeah.
Yeah, or maybe, one shortly after. Bottom line, it's been approved and sitting there for a while. Also, we received $1,000 per unit from the Cirrus development for public safety purposes, so that will be going to this. And then we'll make up the balance, either using some money from like open space, that, part of our funding buckets, or part of the repurposing of the public safety bonds, which we just did at town meeting, so. That's the combination. So we're not raising taxes or anything for this.
And none of those are impacted by waiting to go to fiscal year 25, right, which was questioned in the email.
Correct.
Right, all of those are funds that are currently available, have been available to us, and they don't impact fiscal year 25.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Okay,
Great. Any other questions? So, yeah, I will just second and point out that this is one of those, I think, flexible and proactive things that we're doing to, make sure that we have the resources for the things we're interested in doing as a community. So I want to thank Michael and everyone else who was involved in putting this together. And I think it will be an important segment of the Upper Charles Trail and gives us some flexibility for a number of reasons. So thank you for that. So we do need to take a vote.
Rob, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
So how long is, how long have you been working on this? And is there a reason why we didn't do it when we purchased or took the other land for public safety building?
Yeah.
That's an interesting
That's a good question. Yeah, I think, we hadn't identified all of the uses that it could be used for at that point in time. I don't think we realized or had a sense of, how tight the parking would be on the public safety parcel. We knew it was gonna be tight, but, actually seeing it, built and kind of practicality, that's, that really kind of made the difference. Yeah, that's.
And I thought there was always, go ahead. Yeah.
I also think that when we first initially looked at this parcel for the public safety building, and then we looked at that back parcel, we called it the front parcel and the back parcel, and we were working with Fafford, there was some other understanding about how we might get this property.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with the passing of Howard Fafford, different things changed and discussions changed and things like that. So it's a parcel, it's one of those parcels that we identified many years ago that would be beneficial to have as part of, for our community. So it's nice that we've been able to work this out and move this forward for our community.
Thank you, I appreciate that information.
All right. So I think I will ask for a motion.
Sure, I move that we vote to approve the purchase of 8.55 acres of land identified as 12 to 16 Union Street for the purchase price of $1,550,000, and authorized either the chair or vice chair to execute and enter into all agreements necessary to effectuate said transaction.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, none. Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. And congratulations, Michael and staff, for getting this in place.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, the next is the town manager evaluation. We can skip over that. And no.
No, I think you get to do that.
All
That's
right.
one of your last.
Yeah, one of my last acts. We'll take care of this. All right. So I did send send out, so just to recap for the, for those watching, every year at about this time, we have a standard form that the select board members use to evaluate the town manager. That's a public document online. And we all meet with Michael separately. We fill out the form, discuss it with him, and then hand it in to the chair, who is the responsibility of the chair is to get all of the scores, and there's a number of questions, and they're weighted and put together the scores, and also look at the board members' comments for every question and try to summarize it. And that's the public part of the evaluation is what I'm about to go through. As part of that, I sent it out to the board members as a draft to see if there's any comments or changes. Was there any other questions or comments in the summary that I sent out before I get into it? The other thing I was going to offer, if there's things that people feel that should be added, that they want their comments added, I could still, I think, add that as part of this document later on, maybe this week or anything. But was there anything else that people, it's, part of the challenge is going through comments from 5 members and try to include all the different perspectives and, and thoughts that people had. So I did this, and this evaluation is part of the, I think, the documents which I believe are available online now. Is that right?
That will be part of it.
Yeah. So people can look at that. So I will go through and just try to summarize what I said as part of this. So there are something like 40 questions that we evaluated on a 1 to 5 scale, 5 being, what is the word we used? Exceeds expectations, I think, was the highest. Or there was 4 was the highest, and then there was NA as well. But so just to summarize, these were multiple questions that go to personal characteristics, professionalism, public relations, communication, board support relations, community leadership, organizational leadership, personnel management, financial management, town operations and infrastructure, planning and organization, and then an overall rating. And this was an attempt that, and this form goes back at least 10 years, I think. It's an attempt to get all aspects of the many responsibilities that the town manager has and have the board evaluate and comment on it. So I think I will just spend some time going through each section, briefly summarizing the comments and then the overall rating at the end. So personal characteristics. So the town manager received high ratings for creativity, excellent management, honesty, some concern about burnout given the demanding nature of the job, advice on avoiding conflict, the focus on providing information and recommendations. So those were, and this was on a scale of 1 to 5 was rated very high. I should say, I won't go into it, but just, the overall rating was very high, and I'll get to that at the end. I'm just going to highlight any, just kind of general summaries. Professionalism, the board noted high degree of professionalism and management skills, encouragement of staff development, and the town manager does use a professional coach to assist him in his work. Noted improvement this year on the part of some members, encouraged to enhance his skills even though there are time constraints. Of course, that's always a difficulty to work on self-development and training, even though you've got very heavy day-to-day things that have to be done. Public relations communication, there's strong support for the new weekly newsletter that the town manager has put together with board support. I think we started it last year. That was seen as very effective communication. Support for the Citizens Academy. There were some other, various kinds of pieces of advice about that. Support for handling traditional media and Facebook. So that was seen as a strength. Board support and relations. Some concern about board materials, which is always an ongoing thing, like how to get them out and publish them and provide information. Maybe some website issues. A suggestion to implement a new select board member process, but noted improvement in sharing information and communication with the board and relationship with the board. Success in policy consensus among the town manager and the board was noted as well. Community leadership, Viewed as a very strong community leader, visible at town events. This is appreciated. Strong relationship with elected officials noted. Suggestion to coordinate the town manager office hours with select board members. Again, high rating in all these attributes. Organizational leadership, a consensus that the town manager has created a strong team. This is, within the town staff, provides strong and effective leadership. Noted success of the police chief search and the resolution of the recent resolution with challenges of retention and delegation to staff noted. This is ongoing, of course. Retention's always an issue. And some other things were noted about future directions. Personnel management, this is related. The police department leaving civil service was noted as a major success. Improvements to police department recruiting and retention. Success of union negotiations. Some notes need to delegate, suggestions about effective delegation. Noted both on the town managers and some members' part the desire to focus on operations in the coming year as opposed to like big projects so much. Financial management, this has been a traditional strength area. This is really where Michael came from, and he continue with the help of his staff, continues as a strength area. And we've had recent, noted robust budget discussion and past successes, but noted oncoming challenges. We've been able to balance the budget this year through some funding, but oncoming challenges. A suggestion to develop a policy on retained earnings in the enterprise funds. Town operations and infrastructure. Of course, we noted the many successful infrastructure projects completed and ongoing. We've talked about that on many occasions. And then challenges how to maintain capacity without increasing taxes and fees. Noted success of capital plan process, and noting Jen Ball's work as the assistant town manager in this area. A desire to include the UCT in ongoing operations rather than ad hoc. I don't know who made that comment. I'm not sure where that came from. Yeah, but and some support voice for focus on operational and organizational efforts, kind of more, I think, the internal versus the external project, I think, if I got that right. Planning organization, consistent theme of too many projects and demands and how to manage competing priorities. A concern about, can we make realistic commitments to things. A number of members noted the importance of the board retreat to prioritize items. Some discussion how to handle time needs of the comprehensive plan. Support of all the projects, comprehensive plan, downtown revitalization, and need for overall planning. In general agreement with the town manager's approach to planning and perspective of joint discussion with the select board and town manager on the process. So the overall rating, so on a scale of, I think 1 to 5, the overall rating average was 4.3, which is, what was the actual term? Does anybody have it? Exceeds expectations or high? Yes. Exceeds. So, which is traditional what Michael's always been, and congratulations for that, Michael. So it was overall a very high, there's always, various bits of advice or issues that people address and try to, that bring out in this process, but the overall was very positive. Some diversity of responses on some items, but much agreement amongst board members. The themes were much accomplished over this year. That the select board and the town manager have worked well together on many tasks and challenges, and we can all think of the different things that have happened. Comments, Michael continues to grow as town manager and a strong commitment to the town, strengths, budget, finance, operations, willingness to explore solutions, collaboration, dedication, areas for improvement, distribution materials for meetings, town website came out, better flow of communication with select board, although also a recognition that that's improved, suggestion to delegate more tasks, institutionalize the Upper Charles Trail. Again, that keeps coming up, I don't know. Set realistic goals set realistic goals to minimize burnout. So that was that. So all in all, that's, you know, I'm very pleased to have worked with Michael over the years, and he's a high performer and does a lot of, finds a lot of solutions to things which we depend on and coordinate things. I just want to, you know, I'm impressed with this latest coordination project of the 40 Bs and how that's going along. So, congratulations on that. And I will turn over to my fellow members to talk. And I don't know, any particular order? Claudia, you want to start, say anything?
Yeah, I just, you know, it was my first year, obviously, on the board, working with Michael and his team, Jen, and, you know, I really appreciate the fact that you've always been there whenever I've come to you with questions or concerns, or just been very available. It's been very clear to me that you are certainly high functioning in terms of the financial end of things, and really in your commitment to the community overall. So that's, you know, really, you know, that's a really significant aspect, I think, of who you are, is your commitment to this community. So, so I enjoyed working with you, and I still feel kind of a little bit like a rookie. And,
You haven't figured it out? It's been a whole year.
Yeah, I know.
It takes a while.
And you know, so there were at times when I was doing evaluation, I felt like, geez, I really don't know if I have a good handle on that. So, you know, but certainly the feedback that you provided was very helpful to me as well. So, but I certainly appreciate what you've done in the community, and look forward to working with you and continuing to develop a relationship. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Go ahead. Brandy, I think we'll start in order
So,
here.
So I think it's been a really good year. We've accomplished a lot. Like, one of the really great things about this whole process is just literally thinking about, you know, what we've done as a community, and we've made huge progress on a lot of major capital projects that like we've been working on for years. And so, you know, that we've had some big successes this year. When I think of just sort of the progression over the years, I feel like we're improving on a lot of fronts. The communication, obviously the finance is a big thing, especially going into what has been challenging budget times and will continue to probably be challenging budget times. And so we are very fortunate to have you as our town manager. I appreciate the working relationship you have with all of us. I consider it a very productive relationship we all have. So I think that it's we're fortunate to have you as our town manager, and I think it's been a good year. So that's all for me.
Thanks, Brandy. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Michael, just to piggyback what Claudia and Brandy have already said about the efforts that you put forward for this past year. A lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of frustration too, in trying to get things done. And I can only say that, and I put this in your review, is that you were able to get a lot of this accomplished because you hired people around you that supported you in more ways than any of us would ever have thought of. Your assistant town manager, your financial manager have come through. Your office staff, you know, within the select board office area, Diane and Susan have been able to allow you to do the things and get things done in a timely fashion, which makes it a lot easier. That doesn't mean that the frustration is not there. It just makes it a little less than tense at some point. So you're right. It's been a very good year. There are some storm clouds facing us coming forward sooner than later. But hopefully, with your conservative approach that you have taken since you've taken this position, I think that the town will be in good shape to be able to handle what's coming down the road, both financially and with respect to the changes that Ashland is facing. So thank you for all your work, and thank you for selecting those folks that back you up to the hilt. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Go ahead, Yolanda.
Thank you. So, I always think this is an important process. This is one of the things that's important for us to do as a board, to recognize your strengths, recognize your weaknesses. And Michael and I have always had this little bit of a tussle. My feeling is, I want you to have room for adjustment and for growth. And I believe I put this in my review, that the maturity that you are showing, certainly this year and the last couple of years, has really led to our town being in a much better place. And I remember when we decided to make you our permanent town manager, and watching you grow into this position, and I really think you have grown into this position. And this last year, as everyone else has said, there's been a lot of challenges. We've accomplished a lot. There's still a lot that we're working on, and that as a community, we still want to do. There's still so many projects that I look forward to moving forward and trying to decipher what's the most important for our community, so we can maybe slow down a little bit and really take the time to work on some of these projects that we've sort of been doing a little bit at a time, but haven't been able to get over the finish line. But I just want to thank you. I agree with Joe that you have a great staff, but to have a great staff, there has to be great leadership and management, and you provide that. And I continue looking forward to working with you in your role and in my role, and thank you for all that you've done.
Great, thank you. And the only thing I'll just, just to remind people that the board members do meet with Michael individually, and there's a lot of back and forth about a discussion of his role and a lot of advice given. And sometimes it's contradictory advice, but, and the only thing I want to add, I think, Michael, I've observed you're at your best when you're bringing people together and creating solutions to problems. And that's what I really want to encourage you to do, to look at all sides and how do we bring this together. And I think this 40B process is probably one of the biggest challenges you'll face yet.
Agreed.
So anyway, so thank you, and I want to turn that over to you if there's any remarks you care to say. You got about 10 seconds.
Oh, okay. Can we do this every week? No.
Not every week.
Thank you so much, for the kind words, and your appreciation is definitely noted, and I appreciate it too, and I appreciate this process that we have. I always enjoy our conversations. I get a lot out of them, both like in terms of reviewing what we did in the past, but then also thinking about the future and how we can do things better. And, I do love this community. In many cases, I feel like this is probably more my home than, where my physical location is. It's interesting, seeing it change, from the 11 years since I've been here. It's very, very different. And some of it has been deliberate and things that we have chosen to do, and some of it have been things that have kind of been put upon us. And, I think those are present challenges in the future. I want to thank the board, just for you being you, and the dedication and the work that you put in. People will, I don't think, unless they sit in the seat, they'll never understand how many hours goes into this, not just, in the select board meetings, but just in doing everything you do, reviewing materials, going to events, talking to citizens. You're always working. I appreciate the way that you work together. Frankly, it makes a part of my job a lot easier, knowing that even when you have differences, you respect each other enough to work them out civilly and come to a better conclusion. And thank you for your guidance and advice for me continually. It's something I rely on and depend on, and always found it good and useful. So thank you to the board, and you know, look forward to working with you in the future. Now I'll switch over to, you know, really kind of, you know, what leads me to good reviews, and that's actually my staff. You know, they are just absolute rock stars. It's such a mixture of, you know, people who are from Ashland, people who are not from Ashland, people who've been here a long time, and newcomers. And it's just great to see the group come together and continue to come together and, you know, be who they are. And hopefully I give them the freedom to be who they are and run. And I just can't say enough about them. And I really hope, I know you do, but I really hope the community grows to appreciate them for everything that they do. There's a lot of members of our staff who are not 9-to-5ers. They put in a lot of time outside of, you know, the traditional working hours, and they do it because they care about this community. And you know, I'll certainly say, you know, I'll highlight, you know, the ones in my office just because, you know, I deal with them on a constant basis, and they, well, it's probably more accurate to say they deal with me. But Susan and Diane, you know, yeah, I can't even look at Jen right now and see what kind of eye roll she's making. But you know, Susan and Diane, they really keep me on track. They remind me of things. They do a lot of work themselves, and they do a lot of things that just automatically that you know, people just don't understand, like the licensing and the renewals and stuff like that. And watching them grow and develop has been awesome, similar to, you know, you watching me grow. And, you know, I just can't say enough about, you know, Jen, who, you know, we brought on shortly after I got hired, April 19th, was it? April 19th? And, you know, she's just been a godsend in so many different ways. And, you know, it's, you know, she's grown a lot. I mean, in ways I didn't think were going to happen. But, you know, I don't think people understand just like how much she does, because she does like to stay behind the scenes. And she relishes that, like even finding sneaky ways to get out of pictures, like we did earlier today.
Yeah.
You know, I just, you know, I don't think people have an appreciation for everything that she does. So I am truly blessed to have a great team, and you know, I do a lot of things wrong, but, you know, one of the things I do feel like I do well is I kind of like put people together and a team together, and that balances each other out. So thanks to them, thanks to you, and thank you to everybody. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Great. All right, so we'll move on to the next item, which is, it looks like just a notification of final paving. Did you want to talk about that?
No, we don't necessarily need to, but.
Now, I'm noticing that it's nighttime paving.
Yes.
Don't we need to approve or review that?
So for our projects?
Yeah.
Our projects, no. So
Okay,
those are
but
exempt.
so this is considered our project versus a state project?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yes, they will be doing night paving, obviously to keep the traffic impacts down. The traffic impacts are already pretty significant. So 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., again for I believe it's 3 nights. Finally got it. Yeah, 3 nights. So yeah,
That's, yeah, and that's the stretch around like Market Basket with the raised structures.
yeah,
Be
it'll be
careful.
like Market Basket over to
So
Mike
it's nothing
Kane's
like
place.
going down there and have somebody tailgating you because you're not going fast enough over the raised structures. I mean,
That
come
was
on.
me, Rob.
What do you got, an SUV?
So just reviewing, so May 20th to May 23rd, so next Monday night through Thursday night.
Correct.
Okay. From 8 p.m. until 5 a.m.
Correct.
From the Framingham Town Line all the way to Route 126 self-storage.
Could we
Okay.
just go over a little about the final steps and when this project, 126 is going to be
Done?
done?
Claudia, how about we talk about that at a future meeting, so I can get some more clarification on some things. And, you know, we were waiting, basically right now, they're doing a lot of stormwater work. They're doing utility work as well, and so the different utilities, we're getting the lines moved over to the
Lines
new poles.
transferred over, right.
Yep.
And then we gotta do, you know, obviously some final paving and some concrete work.
Yeah. It'll
So-
be nice to finally get those poles moved and.
Yeah, so are we, and if you don't know, that's fine, but are we looking at months?
I think we're looking at optimistically late 2024. And probably more realistically, spring of '25.
Okay.
In terms of like buttoning up things and finalizing.
Okay, thank you.
So quick question about the paving. So if they are closing from 8 PM to 5 AM, is that, are both lanes going to be closed?
no.
Is it, okay, so, because I was just concerned about the businesses that are over there, you know, like Ashland Ale House, et cetera, that are open later than 8 PM, so I just wanted to
My
make sure.
understanding is they'll do lane by lane.
Okay,
So
and all
they'll
those
keep one lane of
businesses,
traffic open.
are those businesses aware of the paving dates?
They should be aware. I can double check on that and make sure
Okay.
that they've been, you know, contacted and
Okay.
aware.
And I think this was in your newsletter
Mhm.
last week, so you'll do it again this week
Correct,
to remind people.
correct.
Okay, thank you. And I see we have some members for the Historic Commission. I was wondering if we could move item I up to do that next before we can do the town meeting recap. So I will recognize, well, I don't know, Michael, did anyone have a intro on this? This is a review the request from the Historic Commission to create a Historic District Study Committee and solicit members.
Except, you know, Jim, you were here before.
I was here in Jim Nielsen, 35 Ramblewood Drive. I'm the chair of the Ashland Historical Commission. I was here in January to explain what the concept was.
God, it feels like it was.
Yeah, it feels like it was
a month
yesterday,
ago.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it was January, and since then, we have done a lot of work on the study, which you should all have a copy of. It was in one of Susan's emails. or
I do not think they have.
They don't have
that
it
in
yet?
the packet,
I think it was in the packet, was it?
Yeah, it was
It was in a packet, but what I have tonight, because we've seen, let me just pass these around. This is what, I'm here just to, what I need tonight, and this is the general timeline of the whole project, okay?
Oh, you got a flow chart here. This is great.
I sent these all to Susan this afternoon, so I don't think she had a chance to get them to you yet.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's a little quick.
Too late to get them.
Yeah.
Well, what ended up happening is, this just came to my attention at the end of last week. We seems to have skipped over a step that the state requires, and that's the appointment of a study committee. And what I need, well, what the Historical Commission needs is a select board to appoint a local historic district study committee. And what they require is that they solicit nominations from 3 organizations: the local historical society, our Ashland Historical Society, the Greater Boston Real Estate Board, and the Boston Society of Architects. Now, I have copies of the letters that can go out with the addresses of the latter 2, and we know where the Ashland Historical Society is. It's basically a request. What the state requires is, informing this committee, is that you reach out to these 3 distinct organizations and ask if they want to submit anybody to be on the study committee. A lot of I'm told the architects never get back to anybody. The real estate board might, okay, and then the historical society definitely will, with names to appoint to this committee in 30 days. So that's another month away from now. At the end of that 30 days, if you haven't heard back from anybody, but you will hear from the Historical Society, you can appoint anybody you want to this Historical Commission, committee, excuse me. And the study committee is really just to approve the study report we've already pretty much done, the preliminary study report, which you'll have somewhere. And if you don't have it, I'll get it out to you. It's almost done. It's in the final revisions right now. We've hired a consultant. And you know, it looks pretty good. But in order to submit it to the state, we have to go through this step. which I was not informed we had skipped until a consultant realized it when she was talking to the state to submit this. So this is for them to just basically cross the i's and dot the t's kind of thing. And after that, you can see on the chart, what happens next is once the committee meets, sworn in, and approves or not approves the report, then what'll happen is it'll go to the state Mass Historical Commission for their further revisions and reviews and that kind of thing. And then it comes back to us eventually. Now, in the meantime, we're going to be having like public events. We're going to be at the farmers market. We're going to be at Ashland Day. We're going to have we have to have a public hearing before town. Hopefully, this gets to town meeting in the fall, but it's got to go through all these steps mandated by the state in order for this to happen. Just to review, the historic district is local historic district is just basically the downtown area. You have the map somewhere. I didn't bring it with me tonight. I was here with the big one before, but it starts at the Ocean House and it goes down, crosses the street, down by the mill buildings, which we can't do anything about because it's 40B now, but that's another story. And down along the church, around the corner, down to Erica's Restaurant, across the street, up, around again to the railroad station. It's got to be all contiguous. Crossing the street again to where the brick buildings are and that 9 to 49 project that's going on that's staying. I think that was the drugstore and the supermarket way back when. Up to the post office, crossing the street all the way back up that side of the street to the corner spot. So it's one small area in the downtown. And what the local historic district does is it creates a subcommission, which will be staffed not necessarily by the historic commission, but by different people in the community to approve or disapprove changes to any of those buildings for their historic architectural features. And like I said, the whole report will tell you what it's going to be looked for. There'll be bylaws written about it, what you can change, what you can't change. But basically, as I said in January, it's anything you can see from the street. You know, anything from behind or anything like that,
So
doesn't
Jim,
matter.
Just to get but the business at hand tonight, so what's this, have you decided how many members? It says 3 or?
It's the
Three,
state
not more than
mandates 3 to 7.
Yeah.
Okay,
so-
but it could be 3. Okay, because really all this study committee is going to do is approve the study.
So is that a decision we need to make tonight? Like how?
No, tonight what we need to do is for you folks to decide to send out the letters soliciting nominations. That's it.
Okay.
And then, like I said, I've got copies I've gave to Susan this afternoon of who to send the letters to.
Yeah.
And then when if they don't come back in 30 days, then the board's free to make whoever they want to be on.
But
it.
you guys still going to decide? like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you have email addresses as well for those
I
same people?
believe so. There's an
Because
email
I would-
address
I
on the
would-
architects.
I would think that we
Yeah.
might want to just email it rather than sending a hard letter at this point.
There's
A
emails,
lot
there's
of
emails
people
on these too.
communicate. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, and this isn't for discussion tonight, but certainly something to think about. I know when the tree bylaw and a couple of other things came forward, there was discussion of, why are we doing this now? Why not wait until the comprehensive plan is completed and see how this ties in? So again, not for discussion.
To what?
How does this, creating a historic district now, tie into, or should it tie into the discussion about with our comprehensive plan?
I've talked to them. It fits right in with the comprehensive plan.
Who have you spoken with?
Kate Jurzik and Anna.
Okay, so those are 2 members of a 29 committee.
Okay, well, I haven't spoken to the whole commission.
Okay,
We will go before
So I'm
them.
just saying that,
Yeah.
it's a full committee that needs to talk about this as well.
And we have a
so-
representative on that
Right,
committee. So,
right.
I mean,
Sounds like
so
it
it's
should go on
not,
the
it's
agenda.
not
So
something they're not aware of.
Okay, so I
And
think.
everybody I've spoken to in the other committees, I've been before the planning board, I've been before the, I've been before a bunch of different groups.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I've just got nothing but positive feedback because
Okay.
it's very select. There's very few local it's mostly government buildings and businesses.
right. And I know there's been some slight pushback
Slight pushback
from some businesses, so.
from some of the businesses?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, I haven't heard that yet.
Okay.
There might be, but like I said, we have to go through the stages, have forums,
Okay.
have listening things, and figure out nothing's written in stone as far as what's in
Right.
the actual bylaws.
Right.
What they can change and what they can't,
Right.
you know?
So you're saying you're gonna try and do this before the special town meeting in the fall?
Yes.
I would say, let there be some further discussion with the comprehensive plan committee as well through
Yep.
the summer
Yep.
to determine how this can tie in
That's
with
why,
that.
that's what we plan to do all summer.
Okay,
Is to I've been working on this for over 2 years.
Oh, I know,
Yeah,
I know.
and it's
We've been
just-
seeing
it's
it in
just-
different ways and hearing about it.
You know, and it's just getting the word out there.
Okay.
You know, it's a slow process.
Yep.
And we've done farmers markets in the past.
Yeah.
You know, and we were gonna be at Ashland Day last
Right,
year,
and then it didn't
unfortunately.
happen.
You know.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so that
So-
sounds, but just before we go into, but at some point we have to decide, you
Well,
guys will have to decide how
Well, I
many
think we
members
can
and all that.
decide to, I think, if what he's looking for tonight is for us to say, okay, we're willing to send out letters
Right.
to solicit members to the Historic Society, Boston Society for Architects, and the Greater Boston Real Estate Board, but I would also say to other open members here in the town, right?
Well, that's, those three have to be notified by
Right.
law, okay? And if
Okay.
they don't, if they submit 2 people, they're asked for 2 nominations. If they
Right.
submit 2, you have to pick 1.
Okay.
Of those 3, you have to.
Yep.
Other than that, if they don't submit anything,
Then
you
we're
can
good.
be anybody.
Okay.
All right, so I'm,
30-day, it's a 30-day
right.
waiting period.
So I'm just
Once the
looking at the
letters go
larger
out.
process, like,
receiving the notification.
I don't know if it's receiving or when the letters are sent out. I'd have to check
Okay.
the actual,
Because that is
Fine
kind of
print.
important. as to-
yeah, it's, well,
Well, I mean, because I was then looking at this, 30 days from when the letters go out and when we might receive something, and when we then, as a board, might do something. We have a meeting on June 5th, and then our next meeting, the third Wednesday in June, is actually June 19th, which is a federal holiday. So we won't be having a meeting that day, so we're going to have to determine when our next meeting will be and look at what we get for submittals
Yeah.
from each of these,
Yeah,
as
the
well as
public-
from the public.
The
Right,
public
and then-
hearing is not less than 60 days.
Right, so we have to fit that in and see.
Chunk of
and so
time.
are you guys, are you then at that time going to decide how many members on this committee and other recruiting that might or might not happen?
So
guess
I
that's-
wasn't sure, in terms of the membership, does the select board decide how many members? Does the select board fill if there's only 2?
the select board can pick anywhere between 3 to 7.
Okay.
7's the max, 3
And
is the
then
minimum.
you said only 1, so say the
One from each
historical
of those
commission.
3 groups,
Okay.
if they submit 2. If they
Okay.
submit 2 and both, I'll tell
If
you
they
right now,
submit
I'm going to
4,
be
it's
on the
only one?
historical commission, the historical society one, along with somebody else probably from the historical commission.
Right.
You know, and I don't know if you guys remember Jen Paratore, who used to be on the commission. She's a
Right.
real estate broker, and she's
great.
like volunteered to be on the commission too.
And
Okay.
that was
I've
going to be
spoken to her.
my question. Do you have to send, I mean, if you know people locally that might be a good fit and are members of these organizations, could the
That's
board
what I'm-
solicit
yes.
them directly, or do you have to like send it?
I'll talk to them directly and say, and submit their names after the 30-day period. I don't
If
think
you
we're
don't
going,
get somebody, so like if Greater Boston Real Estate
if
Board
they ignore the letter,
does not send anything, we know someone who's on there that we can then, but we have to wait for the 30 days.
the 30-day period.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Once that's over and done with, we can
Okay.
select
All right,
whoever.
so
Select whoever you want, up to 7 people, and then we'll swear them in, and then we'll meet once at least with chairman and the whole rigmarole to basically establish the
committee.
committee, and then we'll look at the study report, which, like I said, is almost done. And we'll go through the concept and
Okay.
what the vision is. And then, tweaks here and there, and then it'll be ready to, once that is approved, then it can go to the state, and that takes 60 days with them. So that's why we want to get this going. That's why I asked to be on tonight's meeting.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's
Because
fine.
I
then-
want to get this.
And just-
a motion just to do
And just a
this?
question about
Sure.
the committee. So the committee's going to be shepherding this through the whole process, correct?
No, the study committee?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. With the study committee, that's why people who've been doing this for a while will be on the study committee.
Okay, I'm just making sure, like, as
yeah.
we kind of look to see who's kind of doing what.
We're not going to
that-
start all over with new people.
No, I'm not saying to start over with new people, but I'm saying, like, it just needs to be kind of clear what this committee's going to do versus the historical commission versus, like, it just needs, because it can't be one big group. It
No.
can't be like,
No.
it can't be the entire historical commission working on this because,
No, and that's not the point.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
going to be,
I
this
just
is
wanna
going to
make
be a
sure.
split-off group from the historical commission.
okay.
Which eventually will be the local historic
And
district
it sounds like
commission.
you guys are gonna do that at whatever meeting gets scheduled to approve these at that time, it sounds like you're going to then determine the size of this group, whether it's 3 to 7,
Yeah.
right? And who else is gonna be on it? I
But it would
think.
be good to be able to put out a call to the community to be able
You
to
could
participate.
put out, I
That
think
was-
Susan said they were gonna put out talent bank.
Okay, that was gonna be my
Okay.
next
Yeah, that's-
question.
she
That-
was
that
gonna
would
do
be-
that, too.
That's how we pool the people.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
but this letter thing has to go out in this
Right.
form for the
And
state.
so
Okay.
my question,
That's
I mean, I think we're gonna approve this letter thing to go out, right?
Yeah.
But I think, what's the sense, do you wanna decide tonight about this committee? You wanna put it off till you meet?
Put-
I
Yeah,
think
we-
part of me wants to wait until we see what we get as a response,
Okay.
right? Because if we only get 3 people, then it'll be 3 people. But if we get a few more people interested who either have been participating or have an interest to review this, then I'd say we can appoint a few more, up to 7 people.
And these are people, general talent bank.
Right, they would have- right, so-
we need to
Yeah,
put that
and
out.
and
Okay.
it says in the guide, which I have sent you also.
Okay.
It gives you a list of people who they like to have, the state
The
recommends.
the mix of
The
people.
mix, they
Perfect.
want a mix of people
All
from the
right, thanks.
community.
And I would
If you can
also-
get them, if you can
Right.
get them.
And I would also say, it may not be a bad idea to have one of our board members on that committee as well. Because, just from
Not a bad idea.
if there's anyone on our board that wants to
Yeah.
throw their hat in the ring for that. But I'm just, Yolanda's like, don't look at me.
Interesting thought. Yeah. Interesting thought.
Well, if you've got the
But-
time, but,
Don't look at me
And I
for that
see-
either.
But
But
I
that's
also
okay.
think this is one of those committees that, it sounds like a lot of the work has already been completed in regards to the study. So, I mean, whereas it might be nice if one of us are sitting there, I don't know that that's necessary.
Okay.
If we can at least be kept up to date. It sounds like we already have, as long as the report gets distributed to us, as long as other thing gets distributed to us, and we can be aware, if we
You
want
have
to
it,
sit
so-
in on the meeting rather than be appointed to the committee.
So when you get a chance, it's in one of the packets.
Okay.
It's a big
All right,
thing
thanks,
to
Jim. I
keep-
just want I see Jones on, if she.
John's on the commission with me,
I
yeah.
know, does she want to say anything?
John, do you want to chime
Or
in?
just, she doesn't have to.
If she's,
I think,
Okay.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm ready to make
Do you have a motion?
Yeah, I have a motion. I move that we approve the sending of the letters or emails necessary for the 3 entities that are listed, and also then to put out a call for talent bank forms if there are people who are interested in being part of the study committee, and that at a future date, we will determine the number of members on the committee.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Okay, so
Thank you.
congratulations, Jim.
thank you,
Go
and
get 'em.
congratulations, Rob, on a
On
long
leaving.
career.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, this is one of those things that we forgot to check with Michael and Jen if they have the bandwidth,
Oh, to do that.
and we
All
forgot
right.
to ask.
Thank you. Okay, so the next is town meeting recap.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay, if we move ahead, on to this, yeah. Yeah, so, sorry,
Sure.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Town
yeah.
meeting recap.
Absolutely. So, town meeting was held May 1st, right? It was May 1st? And
Seems
they just all blend in
Seems like a
together.
long time ago now.
We had a great town meeting. There wasn't a whole lot of discussion on all the items. There were some that generated some discussion. But, I thought, everything passed. That doesn't make it a good town meeting per se, but I think, we did a lot of prep work ahead of time and tried to get the information out to people. We ended up having 146, right? 146 people at town meeting, which, quite frankly, was a little more than what I had anticipated. And I saw a lot of new faces. I don't know if there was a particular warrant article that drew them out. Noticed a couple people from our Citizens Academy went to their first town meeting, so that was great. I have to thank everybody who worked on this, from the boards and committees all the way to the staff, and the moderator. He plays a key role, but Jen, Cindy, Chris, Paul. I'm gonna miss people if I start naming
Right.
names. But there's a lot of work that goes into putting on town meeting, and The only problem we had was the guy operating the PowerPoint and behind. You know, he was having a really hard time because he was thinking that things were up on the screen, and then somebody would text him and say, "Hey, can you put that up on the screen?" And we're like, oh, so we'll have to fire him and get a new person. So.
Or find a new location for him so he can see the screen when they're doing it.
Yeah, maybe.
Just a little
And it's
simple-
funny, no one in the select board told this guy that he was. We're like, oh yeah, who cares?
So, anyway. So I thought it was really good.
Yeah, that was good.
And hopefully you thought so as well.
Yeah, and I thought, you know, I'm glad we passed that stretch code and, you know, some of the other things that we, trying to remember what else we did, the budget, of course, and went through in the capital plan, and what was the other item that we did that was, God, seems so long ago now?
So we did the stretch code.
Yeah, the stretch code, that's what I said, yeah.
Oh,
But
sorry.
was there something else? We pulled the. Yeah, the demolition delay, that was another important thing. All right, anything else on the town meeting recap? Is there any appetite to do the consent agenda, just to get it done? Do you want to give me a
Motion to
motion?
approve the consent agenda as presented.
All those in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, consent agenda's passed. I will note, Carlton, congratulations on being in the Affordable Housing Trust. You're here, sitting through the meeting, so have fun. Good luck with that.
Well, did you want to introduce yourself or
Sure.
take a few minutes? And we've already approved it, but you've been sitting here and though it can get you, if you sit at a meeting long enough, it'll be surprising what you get involved with.
Well, thank you. Give me some talk time. Well, thank you guys for approving. I appreciate it. And to the Affordable Housing Trust, all of those guys, I appreciate that as well. Congratulations to you, Rob, on your service. And I like your JFK thing earlier. You know, do not ask what Ashland can do for you, but what you can do for Ashland. I love it.
That's very good.
And you too as well, Michael. Congratulations. And nice to meet you, Mark, and everybody. And thank you. And I just look forward to, you know, doing what I can do my part. I'm just a little bit about me. I'm an underwriter in terms of like my background, and I'm very excited. I've worked towards public policy and housing. This microphone seems short. I'm a little taller.
Yeah.
You can move it up.
With the Federal Home Loan Bank, working directly with mass housing, the AHP program. A little bit about it, just so you know, and I know you've done a really great job, Michael. I've seen some of your information, educating people, and that's excellent, you know, so people can know a little bit more. But what happens is about 5%, I have to go back to the bylaws, but 5% of what the revenue is from the Federal Home Loan Bank, and those that don't know, the Federal Home Loan Bank is the biggest mortgage institution in the United States of America, about $1 trillion. And I was on the credit collateral team of that, about 8 guys. And all the banks in America belong to it. And they take 5% of that revenue goes to affordable housing, and that money and those monies get allocated in conjunction with mass housing to affordable housing, like the down payment assistance program. So this is my wheelhouse. This is something that I know, and I hope I can bring that kind of skill set here to Ashland.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We I just want to say we have the big project going on with the Simpson property, so, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And thanks for that suggestion, Yolanda. So it's good to hear from people. Okay, so so this is now a recap of the 40B public forum and the comment letter to Mass Housing outline the concerns and comments from the community. And we'll also, at some point, clarify the difference between 40B projects and the MBTA communities. I just want to say, yeah, we had a great forum, and Michael's and his staff have been overseeing a process that we talked about how to respond to this 40B application and the next one, so hopefully we've set up a good model. We had a lot of material in our packet. Hopefully people had a chance to at least skim over it. I couldn't read the public comments, I think, section, which was kind of small.
Too small?
Yeah, I think so. But there's a ton of public comments, so we should talk about the best way to package those as well. But I just want to say it looks like a very important and thorough process. So I think with that introduction, I'll turn it over to Michael if you want to talk a little bit about it. And of course, we can get into a discussion with the members. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I thought the forum was good. You know, we had a 40B expert attorney who came and just provided some education. The developer was willing to come here, answer some questions, present an overview of their project, and then, you know, open things up to questions. And I really appreciate the community. You know, they really asked some really good questions, and it was calm and it was professional. So the process. So as I explained earlier, you know, we're in basically this site eligibility letter phase, and so Mass Housing has asked the select board to provide comment on the proposed project at the mill site. And so we developed a process whereby we distributed the materials to different boards and committees that would play a role in this, and asked them to provide comments by May 8th, which we subsequently moved to May 10th. And we got a lot of feedback. I do anticipate we'll probably get a couple of other comments from board member, or other boards, I should say. And so in addition to that, we did do a unique step in terms of putting this out to the public and putting the materials online, and then instituting a forum to gather public comment and public feedback, of which we got, you know, over 150 responses. So what I've been doing is I've been trying to take the board and committees input, as well as some of the things that we have talked about. There's some overlap there. There's some things that were unique, and put together a comment letter that I think gives us the best, or at least the outline right now of one that gives us the best chance of, you know, either having Mass Housing deny this project, which is highly unlikely, but it has been possible, or at least scaling it down quite a bit. And you know, Rob, you mentioned being you know, more hopeful about this. I'm a little more optimistic, you know, now, given where we are and some of the things that we've collected, and I think our argument's going to be pretty strong. And I talked to Attorney Mead about this a bit, and she thinks, you know, our two best arguments are, first of all, how much affordable housing or housing we've produced over the last decade and a half, and it's really been tremendous, actually, the amount. We're not your typical suburban community that, you know, tries to block 40Bs or, you know, affordable housing. You know, in many cases, we invite it and have approved it. There have been a couple of situations where a project didn't make sense for the community overall, and we've taken steps to, you know, go in a different direction. But by and large, we're not the poster child for NIMBYism. So that, and then also, when you look at the scale and the architecture of the proposed building, and you look at what we're trying to accomplish with form-based code and you know, some of the zoning that we do have in terms of keeping things in scale, you know, there's a dramatic difference between what we have as a community said that we would like and what this proposal exhibits. So those are really the two main things. Would you like me to go into some of the others, or you want to pause there, or how do you want to handle this?
Well, I just had a couple of questions. What about, you don't think it's the infrastructure arguments aren't good arguments?
Oh, I thought I put infrastructure in.
It's on there. I'm just saying, you said the top two were.
Oh, yeah, the top two, you know, having a conversation with Attorney Mead, you know, just her thoughts, you know, going through this. She thought the two I mentioned were probably the most
I'm surprised the scale
arguments.
one, I guess, would rise above the infrastructure concerns.
Well, it's basically what gives you the best chance of putting things, pushing things back or scaling things down. And infrastructure can, you know, for all intents and purposes, be addressed. It can be expensive. It can be, you know, very, very difficult, but it can be addressed. You know, things like the architecture of multiple buildings and of an area and the scale of an area is something that, you know, you can't really change or fix unless you're doing wholesale demolition.
No, but you can adjust the project, right?
Right.
So, it doesn't, I don't know, I just feel like that's, can be changed.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we just came across a decision from Medfield in 2017 where Mass Housing actually denied a project because it didn't fit in with the scale and architecture. It was
So
interesting.
I didn't get to read all of that. So they denied it. Was the project then redesigned and approved, or did it never get built?
It got redesigned and approved. So it went from 200 units to 36 townhomes.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
wow.
talking
That's
about, I
good.
didn't send it to you guys, but something Kate sent
Oh,
me that.
yeah, I'd like
that
to read
people have
that.
been doing some research about, and so that was very hopeful, I thought, because it wasn't like, let him build whatever he wants, it's affordable housing. It's like, oh, this doesn't really fit with some of the measures you folks have taken, so we want you to change it. That was like,
So, you know,
That was
one of the
something.
things that has been on my mind about this, you know, is just that, and I'm not sure it's an argument that can be used because not sure it, you know, that it actually addresses the law, right, which is always a problem. But in reality, how does this really improve affordability for a family? You know, maybe the rent is less, but it's not as if it's something that you buy at a discount and you have the opportunity to build equity and perhaps then, you know, like all the condos in town where people have come, bought a condo, Rob, you being one of them, have lived there, and then Yolanda, and, right? And then eventually were able to buy into the town in a single-family home. So that's something that really troubles me, is that it doesn't feel as though this law has ever done what it was intended to do.
so is that worth, what I'm, and
Yeah,
I
well, that's
agree.
just it, that's my point. I'm not sure it's an argument worth
Right.
making in this if it's not something that addresses the actual law,
I mean, would
the
we
way the
gain-
law is
Could we
written.
gain anything by saying, hey, why don't you, of course, we were never thinking about condos there anyway, I don't think. We were always looking at rental, but.
Yeah, I mean, I just, you know,
Well,
maybe there's a section of the argument that doesn't necessarily address the law, but rather discusses some of these
Affordability,
other
yeah.
points, right?
Right, because I think if you look, there have been projects that are 40B, either just straight 40B or friendly 40Bs, maybe not here in Ashland, but in other communities that then did allow for more affordable units and
Townhomes.
giving places for people to live and things like that. So, but I agree that we need to look at what it means for this community, and certainly hearing about a project being denied and actually being reworked, I think is something we can hang our hat on to say, how can we work and let Mass Housing know that this project is too big for our downtown because of some of our infrastructure things. And I think for a lot of people, there's still the issues of the EPA and the DEP, right? The where it sits and how it sits and things like that.
Yeah, except that if it's all built above, right, which seems to be what their strategy is that does it really,
And that's a
although there was air quality issues too raised, right, in some of that.
Yeah.
And those are kind of technical engineering, which I think are kind of, I mean, we definitely should make those comments because they're challenges, but they're either gonna be resolved or they're not, you know, regardless of how many units are built, I mean.
And I
some
think
ways.
the state's perspective is there's a housing shortage. And so rents have continued to climb, housing prices have continued to climb. And from their perspective, they want to just create more units of housing, which eventually will hopefully drive down the overall cost, because it's not sustainable. Like the rents that are, you know, they're not sustainable. The housing prices are, you know, it's not affordable for someone to buy their first home. It's, you know, it's hard. So, but that
What is the you know, the route to buying your first home?
So.
Is it living in something that's a 40B unit where it's, I mean,
Rental
$2,500 a month?
This is the biggest
right?
nut to crack, like real affordable housing and how to get it. And there's no easy solution.
It's tough.
Well, 'cause it's
tough.
really a
And, I mean,
societal
Joe,
problem.
you know, it's stuff.
So how do we, so I guess, so I think the best conversation for us to have tonight is like, I think like advising Michael on how we think this response should go, and it's gonna be due before the 28th, which we don't have any meetings scheduled. So one question would be if we think the board should meet again before the final thing to review it. That's really up to people's sense or Michael's recommendation. So it's one thing I think to just at least think about, or if this is gonna be it, and we'll leave it to Michael and the staff to put together a response. And my own kind of impressions about, I think we got some great concepts here. I was very impressed with a lot of the responses, especially the planning board. Is the intention just to attach all those to your major letter? And then I think we should also talk about what are we gonna do about the public comment and how to handle that.
Yeah.
But is that, you're thinking you're going to have
Yeah.
a long kind of,
So-
and then attach all this other stuff, maybe highlight some of it?
Right, so the letter from the select board will basically extract some things
Do you want
from
my
different.
signature stamp back?
Sure.
No, I guess before Monday, if you do it.
Yeah, it's, is to, extract, important pieces from the different boards and committees, memos, put that in, also mix kind of our own thoughts in. So yes, it's the comment letter from the select board, and I was thinking that we would attach the memos from the other boards and committees as an attachment. And then, the comments, it's an interesting thing. I'm not necessarily sure if it's gonna help us, potentially could hurt us, but we did make a commitment to, basically attach those word for word and send those.
Well, and I think it's appropriate to allow Mass Housing to see the comments from our community, whether they read them all or not. As you go through them, sure, there's certain ones you go, okay, that's not quite applicable, and there is a couple that actually support it. But I think we asked for the public's opinion. I think we've used that, you've used that to start drafting our letter. I think it's important to share that with Mass Housing, to show the input and involvement of our community.
Yeah, I wasn't disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a dilemma.
To think about it,
Some of them are very thoughtful and.
Some
Well,
of them
I
are
wonder-
very thoughtful. Some
Yeah.
of them are hyperbolic. And,
Yes,
Right.
some of them are, but that's what you're gonna get when you ask for public
True.
comment,
But
so.
so the question I think the board needs to ask whenever you're thinking about putting this together, and if there's things you want to put in, you want to, the public comments are the public comments, because we did make that commitment. And
You
we
include
attached
as an
those.
appendix,
Yeah.
or
But,
something.
I think, the two things you've got to think about when you're thinking about a topic is, will this help the argument? That's number one. And number two, and it's just as important, is it going to hurt our credibility? And then basically, if we say something that hurts our credibility, is that going to then diminish the impact of our credible arguments, right? So, it's a thought.
Well, I think that, first of all, I think the approach, the having a comments letter, a summary thing, because going through a lot of the comments, first of all, thank you to the boards and committees that put so much effort behind giving feedback. Some were extremely extensive, and I know the planning board is still working on theirs. It's not final. But, it's the feedback and the technical expertise of the comments, I think, are really helpful.
Impressive.
So I think, pulling from that into a summary cover page, I think is really important, because I think we have to be I would say that the cover comments need to be as succinct as humanly possible, because I think there's so much behind it, and my concern is that if we don't clearly articulate our position on certain things, it's going to be just
Lost.
a blur.
Yeah,
The rest
right,
of it's
right.
going to be a blur. So, I was looking through your outline that you had put together, and I think it's really good. I think, my take on it is I would probably reorder some of these, because from like level of, importance or level of feedback we've received are certain things that are more important than others. Like I know that we have like parking concerns is like number 4, and I honestly, I would, parking,
They
I would
weren't
put
done
at
in
the
like
bottom.
any order of
Right,
importance.
Because
that's not gonna
it's not
deter them,
really
no.
it's not really a, that's not going to be one of those things that mass housing is like, yep, you know what, like that's, so from my perspective, I feel like, that needs to, the order of the stuff needs to be kind of reworked a bit.
It might
Yes.
be even able to create do as you please, but create categories, right? So these are safety issues, these are architectural or scale issues, and then group them together or something like that. And then even just link to the documents that would be attached.
And I also think we need to look at that letter, the community that got the project denied, and what their strategy was, and how we can use that, because I think there's a lot of similarities, right, in regards to size and scale and traffic and infrastructure impacts, because that's what we're looking at here, right? To Brandy's point, yes, parking could be a concern, considering some of the stuff we're seeing at other projects here downtown, but I don't think mass housing is gonna say, oh, because they have potential parking issues. I think there's
No,
other.
but would that be something that you might consider in putting in like a community of life? I
Right.
mean,
Quality of life.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Quality of life category or that, right?
It just isn't the top issues as to why.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Did
Right.
we have,
Or is that something that mass housing would even opine
Park-
on?
Right.
Or is that more
well,
ZBA?
parking is but you have to have enough parking, so it's one of those direct factual things. There's standards for parking, right?
There are standards for parking, and so I think, so look, the way we got some of our parking minimums, right, in our zoning, and how we got to 1.54 cars or parking spaces per unit, right? So the planning theory is that, you basically, if you have less parking spaces, people will be forced to get less cars, because they will be forced to use, public transportation or walking and biking. So here's the thing, we've gone beyond the theory, we've actually built projects using that theory, and we see it doesn't work. Because,
That's an important point.
and I think that's how we structure that argument. I mean, unfortunately, we've only got anecdotal data, but I'll go ahead at the end of tonight and just take a picture going down Main Street and
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
all
Well,
the
it's not like
parking
there's a
spaces filled up.
supermarket. This isn't Cambridge. They can't walk to a supermarket.
Exactly.
What are they walking to, is right.
Exactly.
Right.
So I
You can
think
maybe
that-
walk to the train station or town hall, but that's limited, that's not everything else that people have to do.
Right.
When you make the argument about the last decade, was it 2010 to 2020 that you were looking at for the housing that we built?
Well, so we have hard data on that, and we went from
1,000 units, basically.
Yeah, basically, it was 6,500 units to 7,450 or something. But then if you look beyond that at what has been permitted
Right.
and what has been built.
5 projects,
I think it's
Yeah.
probably more, Claudia.
okay.
So
I
that's,
think it's probably more.
So, and how many units are we looking at there?
I'll have to look at the table again, but it's like 500, I think over 500.
Yeah.
but I think the planning board thing,
And so what everybody needs to know, I mean, is that those are permitted, so they can happen. Even what's in, right now, there's one project that's been pulled
Paused.
because they're looking for better financing or whatever, and then there's another project that's in the courts. Those are already permitted, and once they settle up, those come online.
Yeah. And one of those projects, I mean, the interesting thing, and I think I put it here in the outline, and we'll make this point, is that, so the developer that was permitting the project Once the permitting was done, he closed on that project and took ownership of it, and that was in December of 2022. So he decided he wanted to flip it to another developer, but he didn't want to pay capital gains taxes, which was what would happen if he sold it within the year. So he wanted to wait a year and then basically flip it, and so he waited that year, and now the financing is such that, you know, it can't happen. So the original developer has decided he wants to do it. Thing is, he waited a year. If that project had pulled building permits within that year, we'd be in safe
In
harbor.
Safe harbor, yep.
Right.
You know, we wouldn't have to worry about this.
Along with UGC and, you know.
Right.
One thing I want to, so in terms of the public comments, I'm thinking about how best to use it, is you would at one time, you had had that kind of trend, like these are the issues, right?
Yeah.
These are comments, and then Anna had that comment about trying to put them into some sort of planning issues. But I'm just wondering, so, you know, we're going to attach them all somewhere so they can be read, I guess. But is there some way of using them in part of our letter or your introduction letter about talking about public concerns that are useful and help guided our response? I mean, is there some way of summarizing the public's concerns that are helpful to the process? I mean, I imagine they reflect the same things we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
And maybe there's just ways of you making allusions to that. Many of the public, we had X number of comments and they were concerned about this.
Right.
People understand housing. We built a lot of housing. They think this is too big in scale or more than we'd only wanted 180 units downtown. This is 250. You know, that kind of thing, or reflecting somehow, summarizing and reflecting the public comments. Then you can refer back to them. But, you know, for them to wade through all the comments is probably not necessarily going to happen. How do we make it useful for them to consider our public comments?
I was thinking about structuring it and basically saying that these comments that we're putting together have been echoed by the boards and committees and citizens at, you know, different public
and we had this
areas.
kind of outreach, and here's the comments. And maybe if we could summarize them as a way of the public concern.
Well, see, I think these are, I mean, what we've got here is
in your outline.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe talking about it that way.
Yeah.
And also, didn't Jen, as these comments came in, sort of track what people were commenting on?
That's what that was the bar graph you showed.
Right, so I would think that is something, you know, if I'm mass housing, I'm probably not gonna, you know, zoom in and read all of these. But if there's the summary for people's concerns as to what people, sending that along with these comments, I think would be helpful.
So maybe look at keywords. That would be maybe the easiest way to pull together, like.
I would caution doing that because some of those items on that list are things that would basically diminish our credibility in terms of.
So why do you say diminish our credibility? If we're sharing with mass housing the concerns of our residents, how does that diminish our credibility?
So let's take schools and school enrollment.
Right, we can't use school enrollment.
We can't use school enrollment. I don't think we want to necessarily say something about crime, increased crime and transients. You know, some of those things.
There's certainly some comments on here that were not realistic related to this construction. I see what you're saying. Okay.
So I would suggest, and I go back to Anna's kind of suggestion with this conceptual kind of, so the bar graph was good, but it was very segmented, and maybe we should attach that as well, but maybe kind of summarize. A lot of the concerns were about these kind of planning processes, which goes to our strengths.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Other thoughts or advice or concerns about the process? Oh, I had a question. What's the significance of the MIPA process with this?
Yeah, so somebody made a comment about MIPA. MIPA was one of the first things.
That was one of Kate's.
Yeah.
But I mean, MIPA is MIPA. I suppose this comes under MIPA, but MIPA lets you do things as long as you meet certain requirements.
Yeah, you have to go through studies and everything. MIPA was one of the first things I looked at. This doesn't qualify under MIPA.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay.
So under MIPA, you have like different triggers and site alteration triggers.
Right.
That, you know, one of them have to be met. And then you have to meet another standard, which the project has to be receiving state funding, basically as transfer of state land, or needs to get a permit from a state agency. Not require state agency action, needs a permit from a state agency.
All right. I'm just presuming that all these kind of, I mean, there are some technical challenges, the whole plume, the floodplain, the environmental stuff. Stormwater. At some point, these are technical, they're either gonna meet them or they're not. And it may be that if the size is too big, they have to downsize it to meet some of these requirements. So hopefully that, I mean, we know that process will happen
Like,
regardless.
Stormwater, if they're planning on using underground stormwater systems, those are required to maintain 2 feet separation from groundwater. And, where that is, it's already sunk a little bit low. And there's already groundwater, it's a
Right
high
there.
water table
Yeah,
down.
it has its
That's why I'm
issues.
surprised that the MWRA hasn't looked at that project in some way, shape, or form because of the Sudbury River being right there.
The MWRA?
It wouldn't be the MWRA, Mass Water Resource Authority?
Why wouldn't it?
Because they're like Quabbin and they're not quality.
I think you mean
DP.
DCR, Joe.
DCR or
I'm sorry,
DP?
Yeah.
DCR.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Sorry, DCR.
I don't know if they'll look at that. I mean, the thing is that those stormwater regulations, they're pretty,
It's an engineering thing,
Yeah,
right?
it's
So
an
they're gonna
engineering
make it
thing.
or not. I mean,
Yeah.
I presume we're gonna engineer, I mean, the engineers, we had a good, strong letter from them and the Concom,
yeah.
Would it make sense for us to have, to include sort of a plan, what we envision would be, something that site could become?
Well,
what did the planning board attach to there? I saw these pictures.
yeah, planning board had,
Yeah.
basically a couple, so one of the pictures that they had attached was the final rendering, and it just was that elevation that the working group
Yes.
came up with or worked with the developer.
Pond Street, yeah.
Tricia.
Yeah, I was looking at that going,
Yeah.
that looks familiar, I mean, not quite that detailed, but that
Yeah, so that was more.
idea of the Riverwalk going in back of the property and things
Well,
like that,
I was talking
right?
about, there was an elevation view from the front,
Mhm.
and, there was, the architecture was much more in line with what we're
Right.
used to. And that was a rendering that was shared right before the owner decided to
Yeah.
basically leave that process and submit in front of the planning board.
Because they were,
Yeah. It's, so Claudia, it's interesting, because I've always said, I think, we're gonna get universal agreement that what's proposed is not good. I think where there's going to be some disagreement and, can really kind of side rail things is coming to an agreement on what is acceptable.
Right.
If you feel that the last planning board iteration was an acceptable plan, maybe we make reference to that and, basically those qualities and suggest that would be a more appropriate project for, that location. Because you've already got a little bit of you got some consensus at the planning board level, I think. I don't know.
What do you guys, what's the thoughts
So
on that?
I think that, that version was a much better version than this. I think the more, it had more commercial, it had less units. My concern is like, if I were a mass housing person, and I'm not a mass housing person, but if I was looking at this whole application and I saw, okay, so this guy went before the planning board, this was all the plans and all the stuff, that's not what I'm looking at. That's not what they're reviewing. So it's almost like, this is gonna come off kind of weird, but it's almost like, well, so what? Like I think it's good to reference it, but like, I think.
if you thought that was such a good project, why did you not approve it?
Correct.
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking
Well, we
about
might have
using
approved
that
it. We didn't
project
get a
as an
chance to
example of
approve
what
it.
we would
They
do.
would have approved it.
No.
Yeah.
So the planning board had continuously gotten feedback that it needed to be smaller and smaller and smaller. And my understanding, and I had not watched the last planning board meeting where the developer had come before them, but my understanding was that it was a frustrating process. That basically what happened was it became not financially feasible, and that, you know, what was being asked of the developer wasn't possible, so the developer withdrew the application.
But he might have got, well, I don't know.
That is
but-
in the mass housing application that the developer submitted to mass housing is, you know, it does talk about, has this project been before, like, the planning board, gone through other planning processes, and, you know, what happened there, and it does say that, yes, it was before the planning board for a special permit, but I'm paraphrasing here, but like the municipal ask became too much or something.
This is
to
what
that
the
effect.
developer said. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about using that as what we would plan for it. I was really thinking, you know, more dramatically different than that.
Well, I think it's still worth saying that we were having discussions. No one had said no. He just, you know, for whatever reason, walked away from it. I mean, if we had a proposal that we liked, it might be, I mean, I don't know how much to push it.
There was an implied, maybe not a completely implied no to that project, but certainly.
Well, I'll tell you what the developer told me during, was it the site visit or pre-meeting?
Yeah.
That this design, oh, I'm sorry, what's that, Joe?
No, I'm saying there was just a negative connotation about the entire project.
Yep.
Right. What the new developer told me was that the plan was not realistically constructed in terms of cost. He didn't specifically address saying, you know, I mean, obviously, he's proposed more units.
Meaning not created in regards to the cost to build it, or that it was not gonna be an economical, like.
It was not, but it was the kind of design and the proposed construction method.
Yeah, the way the buildings, the way that was designed is, you know, to build that would be astronomically expensive.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't financially
Uneconomical.
feasible.
But he didn't directly, I mean, and he wouldn't be in a place to do that, but that, it just seemed like the whole method of construction he thought was off, and it needed to be done a different way.
Yeah, but he, to be fair, he was looking at basically the financial structure that, you know, he had in place. You know, if there is an idea to maybe find a way for the town to help make that plan a little more palatable from a financial perspective, you know, we didn't explore any of that with him. And I don't know if it would work, but.
So, I don't know, I guess it's kind of a tactical thing. Does it make sense to say, look, we were in earnest negotiations and we had a plan like this with 100, I don't even know, was it 180 or 200 units that we thought was viable, but it's changed, so I don't know.
Can we, and I read your letter quickly, can we talk to Mass Housing at all about the business component and the commercial real estate component?
Did I?
Because, well, like I said, I read your letter quickly.
Okay.
Can we, to them, say, this is a downtown that we've been talking about for many years? I mean, as long as I've been sitting here on the select board, and previously when I've been involved and listening to conversation, that we want to have more commercial downtown. And
Well,
as
if you're not gonna
important-
allow people to park, then you gotta give them someplace to go,
Are you
right?
talking
So-
about the economic development letter or a different one?
No, I mean, no, just in general, as we draft our letter to Mass
Oh, okay.
Housing,
Yeah.
is that something that we can speak to? The fact that as a community, we've always talked that we need more business downtown, we need more people to come downtown, to come and come to our businesses, and here we have a mill building that is now all commercial, and we're getting a very small percent back
So
with
that's
the
number,
housing.
that's number 6, right, under his outline?
Oh, okay. Like I said, I only looked at
but
it
we could,
quickly
you know,
after getting
it
it
could
today.
Maybe to
changed.
Yolanda's point, it needs to have some of that too, because
Emphasized,
we were
yeah.
talking about just, you know, talking about commercial space in our downtown, I
Right.
think is sort of like the missing link to that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think like, I'm just trying to think of how we're gonna move this forward. you know, do we want to, like, you know, so is your plan to draft something and then send it to us to look at? Like, so I guess that's,
Yeah, let's talk about the process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I could certainly do that. I mean, if you feel,
The problem is the whole
Okay.
open meeting law and serial communication, which we just have to be sensitive about, I think.
yeah, so I think if you send it just to me, it'd be okay. So my problem is if I get 5 different
Versions, how are you going to reconcile that?
And, yeah, how to reconcile that.
Well, can we look at your letter now and sort of,
What's the letter you're
maybe
referring to?
reprioritize
it
the
says the
outline.
letter to
outline.
Mass, that
The
it's
outline.
More of an
letter,
Yeah, the
you know,
outline,
it's an outline, but it's
Right.
it's
Okay.
speaking to, right, so like Claudia's point, parking is number 4. Should that be a lower concern? And loss of commercial space, should that be something higher on? You know, more important?
Well, the other thing,
The size of it, right? I think that's definitely important, certainly based on the decision we heard previously. You know, so do we look at this outline and understanding what worked for another community, do we draft or you know, massage and prioritize related to that possibility, to those things that help them get it stopped,
Yeah.
right, and revised?
But I think it's a good idea for us to see like a full draft of what this
Oh,
is
yeah,
gonna look
absolutely.
like before it
definitely.
goes out,
Yeah.
so
you know?
let's think about, this is due,
May
the
27th?
27th or 29th.
27th, I thought.
the 27th is Memorial Day, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah, so it must be the 28th or 29th.
I think June 27th is
Oh,
for the
maybe
other.
is for the
Yeah.
second one, yeah.
So, I guess there's no meeting scheduled next week for the select board. One thing, I guess,
Correct.
for you guys to think about, is do you want to meet with Michael? And this wouldn't include me unless you do it like by Monday, but do you want to meet with Michael to review a later draft, or just
Could we
maybe
do a
not?
retreat? Like that kind of format?
When would you look to do that, though?
If we were gonna do it next week, because it would have to be next week, right?
Yeah, I don't know, given a lot of stuff going on. And then
Okay.
I think, you know, the stuff that we would talk about at a retreat, we can kind of get done tonight. I mean,
Right.
which is basically the substance, like the topic points that you
Okay.
want to put through. Because, again, like this will be, you know, the outline, and it's kind of here. You know, I would hope we would get it to a place and we would be on the same page coming out of tonight, to where basically, you know, the things that we wouldn't necessarily be wordsmithing. You know,
No.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, I don't think we need to wordsmith a document for you.
You can go through the minutes like the planning board.
So, are we thinking, you know, the other thing is, to Michael's point, can we come to some agreement tonight as to what we think priorities are? And then, is it a subcommittee? Is it 1 or 2 people who, once Michael, you know, Michael can send it to all of us, but to Michael's point, if he gets then, depending on when we send it, 4 or 5 responses back, how does he handle that? But could it be with a subcommittee, right? So, I don't know how you feel about that, Michael, right? If just there's 2 people that can work with you to finalize it. I don't
Yeah.
know what people think about that.
So have each individual.
We can each respond back to Michael.
Subcommittee.
But if we have a subcommittee, then we have to post a meeting, like it,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely would. I
Yeah,
mean,
We'll have to
no,
meet
I'm just
with
saying,
Michael.
like, from a timing standpoint, and.
Yeah,
right,
Well, if it's later in the week, next week, you have time
yeah, it's
Right.
gonna be, next week is gonna be tough.
to meet. I mean, what's your gut about finishing this? When do you think you'll have it largely completed? And you still got,
Probably into next week.
yeah.
Yeah, why don't what if we posted something for next Friday, you know, a week from Friday? And
You always
then
do
thinking
that,
everybody,
not
or
do it.
just,
Well, you could just post it for the
you
whole
can just
board.
post it for the whole board, and if whoever can make it, makes it.
Yeah, and then you can always withdraw it.
does
Yeah,
that
hybrid
work
meeting
for
too.
you, Michael, that you could get something for us to look at, and then, again, not that we would be wordsmithing, but
No.
just affirming you know, the order or the importance.
Well, why don't we try to take a stab at trying to prioritize the order of this?
Okay.
So I kind of,
During
so,
this discussion.
so I'm happy, because I kind of went through it and I kind of started ordering things, so I'm happy to like throw something out there and
Sure.
get the
Go ahead.
reaction from everyone. So I think number one, where we talk about safe harbor is how we should lead off.
Yep.
Given the
housing.
feedback from Attorney Mead, I would say keep number two as number two with scale and what the, you know, and that includes the historical buildings as well. I would say the next thing for me would be infrastructure concerns, which is number 5.
Before we get off that, is that one likely
it's not traffic.
Is that one likely to be good to reduce the size of the project? Because I think that's what our major concern, right?
So infrastructure is talking about water, sewer, the Mill Pond
Right.
Bridge, and stormwater issues.
Yes.
So-
So that's my question, and
It's
is
kind of
that- what's
infrastructure
your
and
feel-
safety, right? That would
Right.
be rolled in there?
I would add that.
Yeah.
because if you start to look at it, it's gonna cause an issue.
Yeah, I think safety would be a way to, right?
Right.
Safety as part of the,
So, or traffic, and then the next thing I was gonna say was do traffic concerns. So number 3 is
yeah.
as the next. So infrastructure going into traffic.
And, but Bray, I just want to, so, and Michael, you can respond. Is the infrastructure, is this something that possibly there's issues with 250 units, but there'd be less issues if there was 180 or 200 units? I guess that's.
You know, it's gonna be hard to say. You know, like the Framingham IMA, not necessarily sure we could calculate it out to that type of granular level. I mean, what we do know is right now, you know, at certain times, we go above the peak flow that's allowed, and certainly if we have 250 units, it's.
So you can make that case. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if we can put some language like that, and I think it's worth pushing it,
Yeah.
like Brandy's suggesting, but, you know, so we can
Yeah.
at least say,
Yeah.
look, you want 250 units, these are the potential issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Help us downsize.
Do you want me to, if everybody's in agreement with that, I'll go ahead and make some changes now.
Okay.
To that.
With respect to what Claudia just said, with respect to safety, and with the 3 components that Brandy just mentioned, there is gonna be a major design change. God bless you.
Excuse me.
There's gonna be a major change down there by the intersection. That intersection is gonna have to be redesigned to getting that traffic out of the ramp that's coming up onto Main Street. And that's gonna create a design change at that intersection, which means you're gonna be taking property of pieces of property, of town property, and
What's gonna create a design change for that intersection?
the ramp with those people coming out onto Main Street.
So it's just
the
traffic
current-
flow. That's traffic flow that you're talking about.
That's traffic flow.
So that should be part of the traffic concerns.
Right,
Yeah.
that should be part
Right.
of safety, because that is a safety issue for those people who are traveling that road, or walking, or going to and from work, if they're gonna utilize that. Because there's a pedestrian crosswalk there. Believe me, I saw it again this afternoon, where a guy almost got T-boned because he couldn't get out of traffic at 4:30.
This is coming out like the dentist office.
Coming out from the
Up
ramp.
Behind.
Oh, the
from-
ramp,
from
that's
the-
another
From the-
problem.
From the down,
where the
from the
workout
lower,
group is,
from
right.
where
And
CrossFit
he was trying to
is.
turn up, take left or
Right.
something? Yeah.
Right, and they're not allowing that individual to get out, so you're crossing 2 traffic lanes, and then the 3rd lane to get onto the
Oh,
lane.
yeah, I
So-
agree 100%.
And that's gonna be a design change in that intersection.
Yeah, I don't see how you can build this project without totally changing that intersection.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and he
Did
didn't
we
think
get
that.
confirmation?
He didn't, he said, no, absolutely not, because we asked him that.
Looked at the,
Right, but, and that may be,
four-way
I'm thinking of
intersection.
things that will downsize the project, and is this one of them?
Well, that could be an
Oh,
issue, to
okay.
downsize the project, so he doesn't have to pay the
Yeah.
redesigning of that
The other
intersection.
thing I would throw out while I'm, when John Featherston, I think an internal bus stop is good. We should have that somewhere, because we don't want buses stopping. We want buses,
Yeah,
but we don't want them stopping on the street. And that includes school buses, too.
Yeah.
'Cause you know
Yeah,
there's
there
gonna
will
be
be
kids.
there will be a school bus stop. It has
With
to
the
be.
current
The other piece
design,
about
there's
the
a way, with the current design, with the design that we saw, there is an interior
Yes.
courtyard where the bus
Could go in.
could go
Loop
in,
in,
right? They
right.
But
can
an
get
MW
approval to do that.
So let's make sure it does
MWRTA
that.
could, but maybe not a school bus.
Yeah, that's the thing to think about.
So, yeah, so you incorporate, under I'll do it under traffic.
Right. Yeah.
Incorporate bus stops to get more cars off the road.
The
Yeah,
other thing
exactly.
about traffic would be the number of feet it is from the train, the railroad crossing, right? I mean, that's dramatically changes the traffic in town at multiple times a day. I mean, I think that's kind of a big piece in terms of the traffic that, yeah, right. That would be
So
something
Brandy,
important.
did you want to finish your order?
Sure,
And then
yep.
if other people want to do similar, maybe that's helpful for Michael.
Okay. So I went from infrastructure to traffic to Nyanza, which is number 7.
Hold on one second, I had.
I'm writing them
traffic.
down. I'm writing them
Yeah,
down,
okay.
Michael.
Okay, to Nyanza.
To Nyanza.
2537.
And Nyanza to commercial space, which is 6.
Yep.
And then ending with parking.
What do you think, Jamie?
Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah,
part of
they're
the
all
issue, but
important
it's,
But it's
yeah.
not pertinent to.
Anyone else have thoughts on an order, or
No, I think that's a
Yeah.
good order.
I mean, these are good.
Michael,
Yeah, I
thoughts on
agree.
that?
No, I think it's.
Are we
Okay.
missing anything else
Nope.
in the letter that, I mean, is there anything missing that I think one thing you should just, as we get the final comments and just make sure that everything's incorporated, but I'd leave that up to your judgment. But the outline, the general outline, we think is the right direction, I think, and we've got a lot of material from the other boards. How did we decide to leave the public comments will probably be an appendix, and you'll reference them at some times here to try to make them, to try to include them as part of this.
Yeah. I think we're gonna have a good package put together,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
All right.
So the next step is you'll draft this, you'll send it to all of us, just
To review.
And
For
it may not be
review.
for a while.
Thursday or Friday? Yeah.
okay. Do you
Next
want,
week, Thursday or Friday, or like tomorrow or
Oh,
Friday?
next
Yeah,
week.
tomorrow, I
Okay.
think, right?
No. So then, do we want to schedule a meeting on that 24th? I would ask that we do it as a Zoom meeting.
he might not have it ready for the 24th.
Well,
Well,
Oh, the
considering it's
25th.
Memorial Day
Friday.
weekend and it's due
Yeah.
on Tuesday, the 28th, I would,
Yeah.
maybe Wednesday.
Yeah,
But
I have
my
it done.
suggestion for you guys is just to
24th?
schedule it and you can
Okay.
cancel it
Right.
next week.
Yeah, we need to do it in the afternoon, so.
Don't look
before,
at me.
before, like, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock? Well, 1 o'clock, would that work?
That would work.
So May 24th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
Okay.
It's a public meeting, maybe I will show up.
Go for it.
I have a hard stop at 2.
Yeah, so
Okay.
do I.
Yeah.
But, okay. So
All
if
right.
we can get that posted, and the only item would be, this letter to Mass Housing.
Right.
That's the only item.
So this is a Zoom meeting, not a hybrid.
Zoom.
Yeah, I think
Zoom makes
Yeah.
it simple.
Zoom makes
Keeps
it simple rather than.
Yeah. All right.
Could I just,
Yeah,
these are
yeah,
kind of
Yeah, sure.
related questions, but not specifically related to this letter. And would you send us the Medfield?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you. And then,
I'm sorry, what was your question, Claudia?
to send out the Medfield.
no, that was,
Oh, yeah, sure,
that was
sure.
just
Yeah, yeah.
popped in my head.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, geez, where is it here? Could you explain a little bit to me about the financing end of this? That, is it Mass Housing that provides, I know, it might not be possible. Is it Mass Housing that provides some additional financing to the developer based on the number of units?
I don't know if it's based on the number of units, Claudia.
Okay.
But yes, mass housing plays a role. And it's not, to the best of my knowledge, it's not mass housing that provides the financing. I think it's like they have something called the New England Fund or something, which,
And this is to make the 25%.
no, this is just to finance the project generally.
So
But
he's
because
getting
it's
some-
25%, it would be eligible for this.
Okay,
this
but
stuff.
And
it's
what's,
subsidized to some extent. I didn't I guess I didn't realize that.
There is, to a certain extent.
Interesting.
Yeah.
and what's the, here's another maybe impossible question. What's the criteria for getting that funding?
I do not know. I'm sure they have just, you know, I always hesitate to draw comparisons to like a traditional mortgage because there are so many differences, but, you know, in this case, just like when you go to a bank for a loan, you know, you have to meet, you know, income criteria, you know, all this good kind of stuff. I know that they have criteria that they have to meet. I just don't know what it is.
Okay, because I was just thinking in terms of kind of what I was saying, in terms of, you know, what would we envision there? If, you know, I'm not sure that I would, or that the community probably would think that 180 units was a great idea either, right? So, you know, what could be envisioned there that would maybe still qualify for some kind of assistance, that make it attractive to some developer?
Yeah, I mean, so that's interesting. You know, that's going to be a tough one because if you get it to, you know, too low a density, it's just not financeable. And so your choice would be either keeping it the way it is or, you know, going somewhere else. You know,
It might be worth review, and we do have a bit of a strategy to the extent that you feel it's okay to talk about it, is later in the process, the economic analysis about the justification for the number of units. So the fact that they are subsidized could help us, because at some point, right, we can, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we have kind of a thinking about at some point when you could challenge, he may say, I need to build 250 units to make this economical.
Right.
We may be in a position to push back and say, no, according to our analysis, you can build 190 units and it's fine, right? I mean, and how would that play into it? And the fact that he's getting subsidized to build affordable units, I think would help
I mean, I
us.
just want to be careful with using
Yeah,
the term
yeah.
subsidized, 'cause I don't know if it is like what we're thinking about in terms of subsidies and what that is. So, we can't bring up the economic argument unless the zoning board issues a decision
Right.
with conditions, and the developer then appeals it to the Housing Appeals Court,
Right.
saying that those conditions make it uneconomic.
Right.
Once they make that claim, that opens the door for us to.
To review
So
that,
that's
right,
something you guys
I remember the
think
about.
lawyer
Yeah,
saying
That's
that.
where this comes in.
Right.
And that's later in the process. I expect
Right.
that the zoning board is going to issue, I mean, most likely, they're going to issue a decision with conditions, right? Assuming
if
there's not 100% agreement.
I would assume so. I mean, I don't want to speak
Yeah.
for them.
Right, I mean,
Who knows?
I think we have to be careful about saying what we think is gonna happen in the
Right.
future, because
Okay.
2 years ago, some of us were thinking that there was already gonna be a project underway, right, based on previous discussions.
Yeah.
Michael, I just wanna point out, if you could check with the planning board on their memo, because under section 1, materials reviewed and referenced, they have 2 future dates on it. So it could be a typo, that's possibility, but I'd hate for us to send this memo the way it is.
I think it's
That-
still
We
draft.
can't send it the way it is.
It's a draft.
Okay.
It is
Yeah.
rough.
Okay, so they need to, we
They're
need to.
still working on
Yeah,
that.
Okay,
and that'll be part
it
of
does
this.
not say,
I actually pushed for Michael to include the draft, because I thought it'd be good to get a
Yeah, no,
sense
it's
of
good.
where they were going
Yeah.
with it, so.
because I'm not seeing the word draft in our package, that's all.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it still references people's names,
Yeah.
like that people are working on
Yeah,
things.
links.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
Peter doing the
Okay.
final, like, kind of, and did he give you a date for it, or?
I don't think Peter's doing the final.
Is like one of the volunteers is
yeah.
writing this all up? Jeez, that's
Well,
a-
actually, the way.
It's
looks like
hard. That's why I said it's hard.
Well, it looks like each of the groups,
Yeah, they split
each
it up.
member
Yeah.
has split up what they've done, so,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, well, okay.
yeah.
No, with respect to the,
Do you want to do that way? The comment?
I think,
No.
pardon me?
No,
I was
Okay.
thinking, no, I was
No,
thinking
I
all
don't
these
think that's-
folks are writing their
Darn.
own sections, which is great, but at some point, like somebody like Peter puts the whole thing together and, oh, this is all, you know.
Yeah, I would hope that at some
Yeah.
point, our planning director would read through their full memo to make sure that things like that don't happen.
Yeah.
I would
the
hope-
final
I would hope our
version?
planning director would be allowed to.
Okay. Like, there's a typo in there, they reference SHI and they call it shared housing inventory and it's
there's
subsidized.
that
Yeah,
kind of
there's
stuff.
some stuff that needs to,
Supportive housing or
No.
subsidized?
Subsidized.
Housing inventory.
you know,
Okay.
subsidized housing, it goes by the.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't
there's
think
like-
sending the old plan
No.
to Mass Housing makes sense, but, I mean, it's the planning board's letter, but,
Yeah.
okay. So, should you?
Oh, no.
I'm just gonna say,
You're not
do you-
yet the chair.
I know,
Wait
well,
another-
and, you know, there's there's never a
No.
guarantee in the vote happens. Anyway, do you feel like you have what you need, Michael,
Yeah, I
from
mean-
our input and discussion?
Yeah, do you see anything missing in here
I guess that's-
that you think should
Fine.
be in here? And that,
I don't,
you know,
I
we
didn't
should
see
talk about?
anything.
We
No, I
talked
think
a
it
lot
was
about
good.
stuff. I think
Yeah.
you're going in the right direction.
I think the one thing just to add is, on the traffic is the whole train situation. I
I've
think
got
that's a
that,
good,
yeah.
okay.
What's
Yeah.
the train situation?
Well, just the distance.
Scheduled trains.
The crossings right there.
Proximity
Oh,
and the
train
amount of
crossing.
traffic,
Okay.
yeah.
And I was thinking
Traffic
about the
impact.
station.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
and that's something like you can't time, you know, with
Yeah.
lights
No.
or anything.
It's gonna get busier too. It's not like there's gonna be less trains. A lot of ambitious thoughts about commuter rail. Oh, I meant to do that in the board reports. but, yeah.
All right, are we good? Are we all
I'm
set?
so.
good. if
Okay.
we're good.
It's almost
Okay.
10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Jesus. Where are we? All right, so did you want to talk about the other related thing about clarification, 40B versus MBTA communities? Anybody
Yeah,
want to
I
take
mean,
that on?
just quickly, I'll repeat what I said at the forum. So 40B, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40B, is different than what the MBTA Communities Law is. So I'll start with the MBTA Communities Law. So that was recently signed into law a couple years ago. And it requires communities that have a commuter rail or mass transit station or adjacent to one to zone within a certain area and radius for the most part. The community needs to zone, oh shoot, I'm not on,
That's
sorry.
right.
That's okay.
Needs to zone to allow multifamily housing to be built as of right. So it requires the communities to change their zoning to allow multifamily units to be built as of right, which means very limited review. There's not much discretion, allowed. So Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40B, which has been around for about 5 decades now, so 1969. So that is designed to allow a developer to go into a community, and if that community does not have 10% of its housing stock deemed affordable by the state, it allows that developer to override the zoning in order to build something, as long as 25% of the units are affordable. And when I say override zoning, that zoning controls things like density, height, setbacks, just a number of things, and use, and so basically 40B allows a developer to override that. Your zoning says you can only go 3 stories tall. Well, we're gonna do a project that's 5 stories tall. And we can do it because we got 25% affordable.
Right.
It's actually
Okay.
6 stories, right? It just happens that one is
Yeah, so it's 5 stories from grade,
street level.
from street level, which is the way I think it's measured in our zoning, so.
Hey, that reminds me, Michael, I think you ought to echo the Concom's request to not grant a waiver on the local, this goes back, but
Oh.
they had, in their letter, they said there's 2 things where we have local Concom control bylaw, and we don't think a waiver should be granted. I don't know, if you want to reference, that just,
That would be more the ZBA,
yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not something you wanted to, but I thought it was worth, and, yeah, so they wouldn't make yeah, okay. All right, so thank you for that explanation. So the next thing is, this request and process of naming for the public safety building, and request interested parties to complete a talent bank form. So if I understand the process, we did get a request for naming some rooms at the public safety building, and we do have a policy that we did last year, and I think it includes that the fire chief and the police chief, and I'm looking at Susan or Jen if you want to interject or correct me. They're already on this, but I think we need to name one more person, and then you guys at a future meeting can entertain. That's correct. So, can entertain a request. We did receive a specific request involving specific people having rooms named for them, I believe. So, I think, Susan, all we need to do tonight is say, put out a talent bank form request to get one more member for that, and then
That's my
we can get the
understanding as
process
well.
started. Is that it?
That's correct. You just need to solicit. Just open up that you're soliciting names.
Okay, and do we need to
And then
vote
we
on
can
that,
go
or can we just tell you to do it?
No, we can just
Okay.
ask her.
So go ahead and do it, right? Anybody else have
If you're-
questions or thoughts?
Just to clarify, if you're interested in serving on the committee to to have namings of the public safety building, our police chief and fire chief or their designees are already part of it, and then we're looking for a volunteer from the community to participate in that discussion, because we already have 2 requests for that process.
And it's not the building itself.
And when would you like submissions due by?
I think there's a part of our policy, right? We have to do it in a certain number of days. By the June 5th meeting, so by June 1st? Is that too soon? Thoughts? Yeah, so if you're interested in participating in that, submit a talent bank form by June 1st.
And just to Joe's point, like, it's not the public safety building,
No,
it's
it's
benches, it's rooms, it's trees, it's,
Right.
you know,
It's
like,
not the
like putting a
building is not
plaque,
changing its name.
putting a plaque in memory of so-and-so at a certain tree or
Right.
something like that.
Or planting a tree, or bricks,
Yep.
right.
Interrupt,
Sure.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to.
Oh, go past 10 o'clock.
Second.
All those in favor of going past 10 o'clock?
Aye.
Aye. My last post 10 o'clock meeting. Okay, so we go past 10. So I think we're done with that item. The next one is vote to designate Town Manager Michael Herbert as Ashland's representative to the Metro West Veterans Services District. I guess we have to do this, every year or something? Anyway, is
I
that
move
just
that
a
we-
simple motion?
Yeah, I move
Okay.
that we designate Town Manager Michael Herbert as Ashland's representative to the Metro West Veterans Service District.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, none. Motion passes. Thank you. We did that one. Oh, discuss additional funding for Stone Park summer concerts. Joe?
Yeah, I'm gonna withdraw that request. The committee decided that we are gonna resurrect, and put our paperwork in for, 501(c)(3) status again, so.
Good.
We'll have that, hopefully we'll have it ready for the summer and do the fall, status.
Okay.
Go
You
from
can
there,
always
so.
come back
Great.
if you need to. I
So
guess.
that's what we're doing.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Reminder, the annual town election, May 21st, which is next Tuesday, right?
And early voting still on Friday. There was some today
Right.
and then Friday as well. 7 to noon on Friday, yep.
All right, very good. Free COVID tests are still available at Town Hall. I actually availed myself of them last week, very helpful. I was negative, okay, so that's good. Yeah, thanks.
That's a positive thing.
I come here positive, but who
It was
cares?
negative, but it was positive.
Yuck, yuck. Reminder, collection April, no, that's passed. Yard,
It
no.
continues until Monday,
Until
June,
Monday,
yeah.
June 3rd. What is this, yard waste collection? I
waste
think-
collections.
Okay, we lost some words there, okay.
There's no collection on the 27th, which is.
Correct.
Which is Memorial Day. Memorial Day's coming up, so that's good. I presume we'll have our usual, or.
Do we have, are we sponsoring some kind of a Memorial
you
Day
guys wanna
parade
tell-
or
I
event up
presume
at the
it's in place?
cemetery or?
Yeah, it's usually the VFW that helps put it together.
Yeah.
I have not heard anything from Fred.
I imagine.
Somebody actually asked me that, so I'm like.
Certainly downtowns in a state that we could do something, start at Wildwood and come downtown,
Mm-hmm.
so.
I can't imagine they won't do it, but I suppose it's possible. So,
Yeah.
Claudia, you should
So,
plan on being invited to go to Memorial Day.
Susan,
Things at 10 o'clock usually, right? 9 o'clock.
Susan, have you heard anything
yeah,
about Memorial Day?
I have not heard anything,
Oh,
yeah,
but I'm happy to reach out to the VFW.
yeah. Thank you.
That'd be great.
Imagine they're
Thank
doing
you.
their usual
So I
thing.
have somebody that tells me that the VFW and the American Legion do not have anything planned.
Oh,
Wow.
really?
Well, the Legion's closed, so yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
That's interesting.
Sam, just read.
Yeah, they still exist, I
Someone's
think.
reaching out and letting you know?
That's interesting, yeah. Yeah, but hopefully we'll put something together. Okay, we did the consent agenda. That brings us to town manager's report.
Yeah, I really don't have much, folks.
That's fine.
Priority
Okay.
project updates? Anything?
Yeah, I really don't have much on priority project.
Downtown?
Other than we're still in that phase, working with some of the businesses to basically come up with a plan to, how we can least impact them the least when we're doing the, building connections. But, yeah, and I missed the Mendez meeting, so I'm not sure. Oh, I will, yeah, I will say, we did sign some paperwork to move forward the tax rebate
Yep.
issue, so that's good. But yeah,
I can give you a quick update on Mendez, or I can do it during board reports. Well, Claudia was there too, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I'm sorry, Claudia.
That's okay. So things are moving forward with the fields. They're closing out certain areas. They're doing some other things inside. One of the things that was concerning to me was apparently there has been concerns coming from a member of our Concom, and they're pushing for resources to be used to do some extra testing that may not actually be necessary. And again, it's a little disappointing that we could be using resources unnecessarily to do testing for things that really shouldn't be tested. And those are funds that could be used for other things for the project. So, but things are moving forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and just moving on to comprehensive plan update, I mean, we've finished the public input session, and, we got close to our goal of 15% participation, so, and we still have some time to go, but we do have a meeting this week, and the agenda's pretty much, we've had a couple members who wanted to talk about certain things at previous meetings, and so this will be an opportunity for them to
Is
bring up
Goldson
that
gonna be
stuff.
at the meeting?
No, they will
Okay.
not be at the meeting. And then we have like our visioning
Sessions.
sessions scheduled for mid-late June and
One in June and
July.
one in July, yep.
What are visioning sessions?
So basically, essentially coming up with a community vision. for
Based on the
town.
input that we received through
Is that,
the surveys and the meetings in a boxes and the crowdsourcing.
and that's what the steering committee's gonna be doing?
Yes,
It's
yeah,
not,
with-
it's not like.
Right, with Goldston, so the consultant is gonna come back with all this input and help us draft the vision and goals. Yeah, and it's a two-step meeting, so we're doing 3 nights, 1 night,
Wow.
taking that information and then coming back and doing 3 hours
So that
another
strikes
night.
me as kind of the heart of the plan being put
Yep.
together there.
I think I kind of asked this the night of the joint meeting, but I'm just concerned that the results of this are probably not going to align with the fact that we're looking at 240B projects to the tune of, 475?
500 units, yeah, just
units.
round it up.
And that on some level, it feels, disingenuous almost, that we're putting, this time and effort into coming up with that plan, and yet there are so many things out of our hands. that we have absolutely no control over in terms of the future of this community.
Well, one thing I'm hopeful, I mean, these projects, at some point, will be over the 10% and we'll be back.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, that's a good point. You know, we're essentially already at our 10%. Not technically, but we've got enough units in the pipeline to basically do that. You know, if these two projects go through, and let's just say at the unit count that they're proposed, I'm not saying that that's going to happen or that should happen, but essentially what happens is each census, that's when they basically get the housing units from each census, and that's what they base their 10% off of.
So this would be 2020 already?
2030, yeah, so we're looking at 2020 numbers right now.
Yeah.
So 2030, they'll do a census, and then
Yeah.
you'll probably get the new
Absolutely.
numbers in 2031, 2032. But my point being is that, let's just say the 240B projects go through, you know, we might be able to stave off 40Bs for a couple of decades, 2 or 3 decades.
So,
I don't know if that's a silver
And
lining.
even, so.
no, because
but
I feel
planning's
as though if
important.
these two projects go through, that this community is drastically altered in the relatively near future and forever. And that who cares if you're in safe harbor for 2 decades if the damage is done. I mean, that's what I'm saying. And I know, you know, that people have put a lot of time and effort into the comprehensive plan, and you know, this is, I don't want to make it sound or not be sensitive to that, but it's just very frustrating, I think, to think that we're doing all this work to put forth a plan for this community that might not be attainable.
I think that's part of our job too, is to make sure that we're putting something together for 10 years. We're not gonna be able to, like, this plan is not just a snapshot in history. Like, this is, so we're looking to prioritize certain things, whether it's, you know, the community comes back and tells us we need more sidewalks, or we need to preserve more open space. That's more, it's, you know, there's gonna be more visioning, like bigger picture things, and then there will be smaller tactical things that we do. And so there's gonna be a couple levels of things. And I think directionally, we're going to get the feedback from all the outreach that we've done and say, okay, you know, the town, because it's not gonna be feasible for us to say the town, if the feedback is the town shouldn't grow, you know, yes, that's not gonna be aligned with what the reality on the ground is gonna look like. But we can start planning for, okay, how do we best utilize the resources that we have to create an environment that the community is proud of for the next 10 years. So it's so not a perfect fit. And, you know, we've been talking about this since the very beginning, that when we come up with these goals, they have to be realistic in nature enough that we can implement stuff. Because the worst thing that we can do, honest to God, the worst thing that we could do, because we've been working on this for what seems like 10 years, and
Feels like it sometimes.
On
feels
and
like
off.
10 years. The worst thing we can do is come up with a plan that looks great on paper and has zero applicability to what we're doing. Like, that's the worst thing. And so that's what we're trying to.
I think, to just sort of piggyback on what Brandy said, yes, it may seem like, why are we doing this plan, and now we have these 40Bs potentially coming in and impacting our community. But I think there are still things we can generate from the comprehensive plan based on the feedback that we've gotten already from the forums and the surveys and the crowd mapping and all that, that we can still work to implement for the community, even if we grow by these two projects. To Brandy's point, right, there's open space that we can look at creating and working on, the importance of creating the trail and how that impacts our community, And once we have the plan, create an implementation process as well, so it's not just sitting on the shelf. And even though we might be impacted in regards to additional residents, I mean, we're gonna get additional residents, whether it's through those projects or single-family housing that gets built or things like that, because there is still buildable land besides those two areas. And those two projects, if they happen, certainly will impact our numbers more quickly. But we haven't stopped growing as a community, right? Our build-out.
I'm saying that if you took, the number one thing in this community, if we went out and talked to people in this community, I believe, and I could be wrong, would be density. Don't make this community
I would
any
agree with
denser
you.
than
I would
it
agree
is.
with you.
Not prohibit,
Right,
building.
there are people who say we don't want any more building in town, right? And we know that's not feasible.
Right.
Right, that's, I mean, and
But
even
there's a
the
difference
comprehensive
between
plan-
that and, the type of density that we're talking about.
Right, but that
Density
doesn't
isn't
mean the
necessarily bad.
comprehensive, right,
Yeah.
density isn't bad.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean what we're
Depends
doing
where
with
it
the
is and how
comprehensive
it's done.
plan isn't still a positive thing for the community. Because there are other things besides
No,
housing
I agree.
that are gonna be addressed, right? Open space, recreation, fields, things like that are sidewalks are all gonna be part of this discussion.
You're gonna have to walk because you're not.
Yeah, because you're not gonna be able to, drive or
No, no,
park.
no, you're
or
not,
park.
you're gonna take your bike
That's
on the
right.
trail that will get you
Exactly.
through traffic.
That's what we do.
Anyway, so I hear your concern, Claudia, but I think we need to continue the process for the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that it
alongside-
be aborted, I'm suggesting that framework in my mind has changed from,
There has certainly been some things that will be changing, but I think the process itself is still positive, and how we can use it to continue to craft a community that we all still want to live in, right? Because I know for myself, I look at, yes, will these things change the community if they get built? Yes. Will that mean I won't want to stay in town? I think because of the comprehensive plan and the potential of that and what it means for the community, it'll still be a community that I want to be in. It'll just be a little bit bigger.
And the other thing is that, our comprehensive plan deals with Ashland, and, we don't have any control over the other communities.
Right.
And all the traffic that comes downtown during rush hour, I would say a majority of that is not Ashland.
It's
They're
through
going
traffic.
through
It's
town.
through traffic.
Yeah, it's communities to the south and stuff coming up to try to get
Their
to Route
growth
9
affects us.
and 90.
Take a look what's going on
Yeah.
135 in the morning.
Hopkinton.
Coming in
Yeah,
from,
65.
coming in from the
900
west.
units, 900 units.
So I have a question. And I know I brought this up at the last joint planning board and select board meeting with the comprehensive plan group. It would have been nice to have an exclusionary zoning bylaw by now. And I know that's on the agenda to work on with you folks. But the question that I want to ask is, if the zoning board was willing to do some serious work and
Zoning
incorporate
board or planning board?
zoning board,
Okay.
because inclusionary zoning is under ZBA, not under the planning board.
Well, it would be a zoning article.
That the
Through-
planning
Change
board
that would go
have
through
to
the planning
present.
board.
So they would have to go, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you, if there was wording for an inclusionary zoning bylaw, we follow the process and have open forum, public forum, the whole 9 yards, it needs to be done, could that become an article on the fall warrant?
This fall?
This fall?
I think you're gonna get similar pushback with some of these other things that are being proposed. Let's finish the comprehensive.
The only
plan.
reason why I say that is that
I hear ya.
it's not being heard, it's being able to do something that gives a tool to our ZBA to not restrict, but at least provide some, I'm gonna even say the word safe harbor, but that's not even the right word right phrase I want to use. But at least it gives them an opportunity to look at these developers and say, okay, we currently have we have an inclusionary zoning bylaw, 25%. You have to meet that 25%.
Yep.
And if you can't do that, pack up and leave.
Yeah, and I think as long as you're over your 10%, you know, we can do that. It can have a real meaningful impact.
And
Yeah,
you
but
know-
can't you have inclusionary zoning even if you're not at your 10%?
Yes.
I mean, if anything,
Yeah.
inclusionary
Yes.
zoning
That's what he's saying.
will help you get to your 10%.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is, if you have it at like a 25%, right, in your inclusionary zoning, then basically a developer, if you're not at your 10%, your developer is more likely going to say, look at that zoning and say, I'm going to do a 40B if I'm going to have to do 25% anyway. And
I see what
do
you're saying,
something
yeah.
a lot more dense.
Because what we had, when we were going through the process of developing an inclusionary zoning bylaw, after
The
we
second
finished
time.
our housing production plan, one of the things that was clear was like, you have to, if you're going to do inclusionary zoning, you have to allow for heavier density.
Right.
So there's a trade-off. So if I was a developer, just like Michael said, and if there's an inclusionary zoning bylaw that is 25% but doesn't quite meet the numbers that the town is willing to go, I would circumvent that and do a 40B, so.
And the other thing, and we haven't talked about this, but at the state level, they're talking about auxiliary dwelling units and
Yeah,
making them by right. So right now, we do not allow auxiliary dwelling units. So let's say you have a house.
By permit.
By
By
right.
permit.
We do it by special.
You
By
do it by
special permit,
permit.
okay, by special permit.
Because we have one.
Um,
I know that.
Right, so it's by special permit. So
Legal,
what the
right?
state is looking at is making it a by right.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you have a house, so like Joe, right, he has a house with
We were looking at, we were actually looking at that under
you
the
guys
housing production
recommend it?
plan.
Yeah.
That was one of the recommendations that was
Right,
put
and I thought
forward.
we had that so is it gonna be part of the comprehensive plan?
And that's gonna be the
recommendations, or
I don't
is
know
that
that, it
outside?
hasn't been
We haven't gone
discussed
deep-
that
we
detail
haven't
at the
gotten-
Because
comprehensive
I
plan.
thought that was kind of low-hanging fruit that we were looking at.
So I think like one of the things that we're gonna be doing is, going forward is looking at those sort of like focus areas within the comprehensive plan. So we haven't drilled down to housing yet. We haven't
Right.
drilled down.
To
We're kind of
transportation.
we're gonna get like our, like sort of the visioning, we're gonna kind of come up with sort of
The
the,
vision for the community.
correct.
And I
And
would say
then,
as we're looking at it.
and then we're gonna drill down to those specific topics. So I think when we get to housing, I guarantee you inclusionary zoning is gonna come up.
Oh, of course.
Probably an ADU bylaw, like, those things are like tactics that you can implement and get, if the community vision says, we want more affordable housing, those are ways to get more affordable
Correct.
housing. So, anyway,
Alright.
I'm done with my,
Sure.
my,
No, that's fine, I just.
so I think, I hear you when you say you want to get inclusionary zoning done as quickly as possible, but I don't think we're going to be there yet with comprehensive
I mean,
plan.
this discussion started when we were doing the charter review.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, seriously,
I was
it
at the,
took us
I was at the
five-
planning board, I was at the planning board meeting with an actual bylaw in hand to go to town meeting, so I
was
want to talk,
discussed
yeah.
During our first
Yeah, we've
housing
talked about it.
production plan,
Yeah.
so 2014,
I would
right?
think,
So,
here's my suggestion, and I will, but you guys are gonna have this, some sort of, you're gonna have a retreat coming up sometime soon. Joe, I would go back to developing the Simpson property that we put off last year. As a,
Right.
make that into a priority and build some housing.
It's already being worked on.
Yeah, well, that's great, so let's move it
already
up in
being
the-
worked
in the
on.
queue, yes, that's great.
Yep.
So that's,
I'll-
that's what we could, anyway,
How many
anything
is
else
that?
on this one? Where
I
are
just
we?
think so. That was comprehensive plan update.
Comprehensive
so
plan
that's
update.
it.
So that gets us to board reports. So Claudia, we'll start with you as usual, if that's all right.
I think I've said plenty tonight.
Anything on Memorial Day you want to talk about?
No, apparently there is nothing planned for Memorial Day, but.
There will be, I
that-
think.
If anyone wants to plan something.
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah, whatever. Okay. So anyways, yeah, I went to was participated in the school building, the Minda School Building meeting last night, and they are working, as Michael mentioned too, upon the, some tax incentives based on, some of the energy saving sustainability features of the building, so looks very exciting, and we might know more about that by fall, it sounded like, so really good stuff. That's it for me.
Thank you. Brandy?
So I just have a couple things. So on, it was April 28th. It feels like it was like six years ago at this point. But Michael and I were at Tommy King's Eagle Scout Court of Honor.
Oh, yeah.
Which was really great. And it was actually, he's such a good kid. He's actually a classmate and friend of my son. So my son actually came along, and it's so rare that I get my 17-year-old to do anything related to my civic engagement responsibilities. So it was really good to have him there. But Tommy, his Eagle Scout project was work in Stone Park. So built a bench and did some work on the trails and did some cleanup. And as always, Troop 232 puts out some amazing Eagle Scouts. And we actually have another Eagle Scout in June 1st, which is coming up. I cannot make it, so you'll be there. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I think Susan did a proclamation, so I don't know if Rob had signed it or anything yet, but.
I'm so happy to if.
Yeah, I sent
But-
a little note to Tom.
What's that?
Yeah, so he did a great job.
I'll
so.
be around till Monday. I'll be in office until Monday.
Okay. So, but as always, thank you to Troop 232 for all the work that they do, and for our Eagle Scouts, all the benefit to our community. It's amazing. The Corner Spot is having their Culture Fest this upcoming Saturday from 3 to 7. It's always a good event. There's a whole schedule of performers, and there's going to be food and beverages and hopefully some sunshine, and that should be a good thing, so people should definitely try to come out for that. And then I am volunteering, I think Yolanda and maybe Michael as well, at the Reality Fair, which is coming up on the 31st. Over at the high school, which is one of my favorite things that we do, because I love talking to the kids about what their next plans are after high school, but
Crush their dreams.
So I get to talk to them. So I get to talk to them about charitable giving and community service, which is like a really it's great, because they get to us at the very end, and usually they go through this whole budget process. So the whole Reality Fair is that the students have a salary, and then they go through all the booths. So they have to learn to pay for rent and cars and insurance and dental and all those things, that life skills, and it scares the bejesus out of them, which is awesome, because I think speaking of a parent of a teenager, I think a little bit of a reality check is not a bad thing. So
I love it that, so they get a monthly salary based on the career that they've picked, but their credit score and what they can do with it is based on their attendance. So I think that's pretty funny. That's very good.
It's good. So looking forward to that. Student Council puts out they're the sponsors of it, and they do a great job, and there's lots of great volunteers that come out too. So, and that is it for me.
Thanks. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's the last time I can say that.
Yeah, to me anyway.
For you anyway, right. I just want to give a recognition to a high school senior a local senior who won the Daughters of the American Revolution Essay Award. And Emily Umholtz was selected as a seven area Good Citizen Winner Award. So congratulations to Emily. That's quite the honor. And how to make Ashland be proud and put Ashland back on the map again with the Daughters of the American Revolution. We've had a couple of traffic study safety committee meetings, and though we would like to be able to resolve all the issues that residents are providing, telling us about, we can't have pedestrian crosswalks at every corner. It's just impossible to do. So we ask just to be aware of it. But what I did see today, coming back from Gillette Stadium and Mass General Brigham's Hospital down there by Gillette Stadium. We went through the town of Norton. I don't know why we don't have it. They have 3 signs, no horns, on the tracks. Have you seen them?
No, but,
They're massive. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, why can't we have those
You talking about
signs?
the railroad
Oh, you
crossing?
mean
Railroad
they're-
tracks.
You mean they have a quiet zone?
They have a quiet zone,
Well, they,
right smack in the middle of the town, and that's all they have. They don't have the bars up
right,
on,
I think because I had the same question, so I think I can maybe
Is it
cast
because it's
some-
only one one
It's-
track?
I think it's because they have the same thing in Acton, South Acton.
in
There's,
Concord.
and there's a warning, no horn will be sounded at this, something like that.
At the gate, right.
Yeah. So I think it's because it's just the MBTA. That's my recollection when I asked about it. So if you're on a federal freight line,
Like we are.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's an Amtrak.
Okay.
It's a different set of rules. We're a major, some of these are kind of
Wait,
not.
did you say Norton or Norwood?
Norton. Right downtown Norton, there's a railroad station, right there.
My
They're not
understanding-
even a quiet zone. It's just, right? They're not even a quiet zone.
How is
I'm
that-
not sure. So what has happened is that communities that had established quiet zones before these new federal regulations came in were grandfathered in.
Oh, okay.
And it could be what you said, Rob. I hadn't heard
That's
that, but
what-
I
when I
do
asked
know
about it, it was
that
like-
there's a lot of communities in the Commonwealth with quiet zones that didn't have to do any of like the infrastructure upgrades because they were grandfathered.
Which is what we had, with the issue that we have. And I found all that paperwork. I found the graphic designs of the redesigning of that whole intersection. Found it all. I had it in a file,
You
and
mean
I said, I
our-
gotta
our-
find
our
it.
Our quiet zone.
Our
yeah.
quiet zone. And I saw the traffic island that went all the way up to Magunko Road. So that eliminated truck traffic turning from Park Road down to Magunko Road. I mean, I'm looking at the design and going, wow, I gotta bring this back up. So at some point, no.
Well, but our quiet zone is still being looked at, but it's been pushed, the funding for it
Right,
has
so
been
the
pushed
tip's been
out
pushed back, yeah.
because of the tip process. So
Right.
our quiet zone hasn't gone away that we know of, but there's issues because of the number of incidents we've had on our tracks.
You would think that would.
That might change. They might then just say, you know what, we're not gonna let you do a quiet zone, right? Isn't that one of the,
It's
we're still
possible. That's a
researching it and we
concern.
haven't found out for sure.
Okay.
That's a concern. And
All right.
Yeah.
I was gonna talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
on my board. But it is, yeah,
So that
they don't have to go along with a quiet zone. That was the astonishing thing.
Right.
They don't. And lastly, one of our finest citizens in town celebrated her, I'll say, 93rd birthday, Marie Kane. So happy birthday, Marie. It was a couple of
Birthday,
weeks ago.
Marie. Yeah, it's
Yep.
been a couple
So
weeks
happy
ago.
birthday.
Thank you.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chair. And again, thank you for your service to our community,
Thanks, I appreciate it.
both on the field and off the field.
Thank you. Yolanda?
A couple of things. So back on May 3rd, I had the honor of interviewing our Senate President, Karen Spilka, as part of the WEMO event, which is Women Elected
yeah.
Municipal Officers. We had about 30 or 35 people on the Zoom call, so that was fun to do. Then on May 4th, we had Green Up Ashland. We missed you, Brandy. Green Up Ashland is always a fun day. They had a really nice turnout. They send out a great email to sort of summarize the amount of trash, and it was quite a bit. And on that same day, we have to thank Mina, our director at our library. She had the first Ashland Mini Renaissance Fair. And again, it was just a great event. The number of people that came in, there was a vendor from upstate New York that came in, so a lot of people were brought in. And it's nice to see events like this because it just brings more people to Ashland. And that was nice
in
to see.
strange costumes.
In strange costumes.
In interesting costumes, right? It's a Renaissance fair. We've talked about early voting, still happening this Friday, and then the election is the 21st. The YMCA, a little bit of update there. They have hired a firm to start looking at the architecture and the design and moving that project forward. They're getting ready to hire an attorney and potentially start filing some forms with the town of Ashland in regards to building that. They're looking at potentially doing a phased process based on the funding. So we have $5 million from the federal government to do a early learning center as part of the project. And then we also have $2.5 million already from MathWorks. So the first goal is about 40 million, with 20 million being raised, and then they'll fund the rest. So there'll be a smaller footprint, and then the aquatic center is potentially going to be in phase 2. But the new design and the orientation of it looks really good. Then, as Brandy said, the reality fair, I'm looking forward to a slightly different role. I've usually been in the budget. I've usually been the last person, one of the last people that they see to review it. And this year, a new table has been created for public service government. So not necessarily civic, but talking about the role of a town manager in the select board, and Jack Lewis will be there, and someone from Senator Spilka's office talking about engagement, how you can participate and be part of public government. And then the last thing, not really town related, but if you're not doing anything on Saturday, May 25th, it is the Saturday Memorial Day weekend. If you want to go see a local company do the ballet Capella at the Norwood Theater, there's a performance at 2 and 7:30. Should be lots of fun and just seeing some live local dancers.
Great.
And that's all I got.
Thank you, Yolanda. Just a few quick things in my last address, last board report. One thing I did want to give a shout out to Makita Keegan, who is still smiling at us there. You know, it makes me feel good that she'll be coming in to this board, and I think that's great that she came forward. So I wanted to thank her for doing that. You're still smiling, Makita, so that's good. All right. And I just a quick, you know, I'm still on the MBTA thumbs up. I'm still on the MBTA advisory board unless you folks yank me off it. Went to just in terms of your future planning. We got a presentation on the future capital plan, which involved a lot of electrification. And new battery, what they call electric battery engines that won't need overhead catenary lines, which are that's like Amtrak. So there's a bit of that they can do, but this line is not really slated for a ton of that, but it is slated for an increase over the next few years. I don't know how long it'll take them. Their goal is 30-minute service. So clock-faced trains every 30 minutes, which is great if you use commuter rail. If you've got local traffic conditions, you know, it means 30 minutes through that.
Every 30 minutes we'll see a train come through.
Yeah, and plus the freight, plus Amtrak. So something to keep in mind, you know.
So maybe that's something Michael can use too when he talks about the traffic and rate.
It's important, yeah. It is a major and important rail crossing. It's not just us, it's freight, it's Amtrak, you know, so. Anyway, so I thought, and I just did want to note that recent Natick tragedy on the tracks, which did everybody, you were one of the, just horrible.
Were you on the train, or?
I was on the train, not on the train that unfortunately hit,
Yeah.
I wasn't on the train that hit the pedestrian, sorry. I wasn't on the train, I was on a train behind it.
Yeah.
So I had a 3-hour commute home until they were able to pull us into Natick Center, and then we were able to get off at Natick Center, and then I convinced my husband to come pick me up.
Yeah.
So, but two people lost their lives, and it's always just such a tragedy, and
Yeah.
it just so.
And I did want to,
I've had that as well, being on a train, and our train didn't hit it, but then someone else. And
oh, you were as well? So
not
it's-
this time, but probably
yeah.
about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So
I mean, one thing as we think about, as you folks think about the quiet zone, these are all complicated factors. So we have yet apparently accidental deaths again. So we've got some, and I've asked for, you know, safety information and safety analysis, but have not really received any. So I'm going to go back again and say, what are you folks doing on a system-wide basis to look at these things? So something to think about. But I told you I got a very negative response about a quiet zone. Especially they're starting to feel the pressure, the heat, when people are getting killed, you know, quiet zones recede in priority to them, so anyway.
I get that. Maybe
Yeah.
they should think about slowing the trains down instead of going as
Yeah,
fast as they have.
right,
going
and
through
they
the
don't
center
slow
of towns.
down, they don't slow down through our center, but I'm sure Natick did, so anyway. But anyway, so, I just wanted to update you on that, and so I think that's it as I come to an end here, so thank you all again. Very nice ceremony, it's great to be recognized and appreciated. So many of us do so much of this and don't take the time to kind of, have that little discussion or just appreciation. I certainly appreciate all you folks working with you all these years. So anyway, I'll speak for another 20 minutes and then we can go home.
Motion
No,
to
I-
adjourn.
No, wait,
All right.
we want to hear it like Jack Kennedy's.
Motion to adjourn, okay?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you,
All
Rob.
right,
Thank you, Rob.